Chat. Sorry. Technical difficulties, but we got the shit fixed. And then we started bullshitting for a little bit. All right. So, welcome to the Malice Experience. I'm, of course, Mr. Malice, or Adius Dade. Below me, because he's always the bottom, is, Mystic Salon. It's just a fucking running joke now.
Yeah, you're going to be running when you bottom in for me, bitch. Mystic Salon, not the hair salon, the salty salon. So let me be salty tonight. My number one goal in my shadow work in life recently has been to learn how to interrupt better.
So he's just basically being an asshole the whole night, so it's all good. And we are joined with, again, I think after, it's been like about a month since the last time you were on here, man?
It's definitely been longer than that, but I have no idea how long.
Okay, it's been a while. So, but we are joined by BikerWitch, or Patrick. How do you pronounce your last name, Patrick?
Dugan.
Dugan. Okay, Patrick Dugan. Is that Irish?
Very Irish.
All right. So, there you go. So, we are doing part 3 of a 16-part series that we're going to be doing on the show, talking about magical work and trauma. And so the first episode we did had an impromptu guest, Miss Scarlett Bales, which gave us a very clinical kind of perspective on things. I mean, including magic, not ignoring it, but it was a very clinical perspective. The next night we had, the next show we had her husband, Nate Bales, which gave us a more deeply kind of like connected kind of like, demonic left-hand path kind of direction on things. And I thought of you to bring you onto this because a lot of your perspectives, a lot of things that you talk about on your TikToks and things like that, where you're prominently, kind of like located, especially because you're banned off on Instagram. You're going to have to tell us about that later, what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
But, so there's a certain air to your perspectives that you're almost like the motivational speaker that kicks people in the ass. Like, you don't baby people, right? It's like, oh, poor you, like you motivate people, but it's with like a steel toe boot upside the head,
And that comes from a place of that I think there was a time in my life where that's where I needed more than anything. And I really felt like I was fighting an uphill battle, seeking out people who would give me just that. So it's definitely coming from that place of trying to be what I wanted to have back when I needed it.
Exactly. So that was exactly the reason I was like, when I was watching one of your videos on TikTok, and I was just kind of flipping through your stuff, and I was like, dude, you'd be perfect for this, like for another perspective, because you've got like, you're not one extreme or the other. You've got like this kind of like balance to you where like there's this like real world like aspect to you, like you have kind of like that spiritual path, but you're also grounded. You're very, very grounded, and I think having that kind of balanced perspective after we kind of went through kind of like the two extremes, I think would be kind of like the perfect kind of like the cherry on top of the cake for like these 3 parts. So the question is, and then I'm just going to kind of hand it off to you here, is have you ever like used magic to heal your own trauma? 2, do you know anyone else that has? And 3, do you think there's actual real world benefit in it?
This is a really great topic, man, and I really, really appreciate you having me on for it. And I'm so glad to hear that it resonates. Like, to hear that like what you're putting out there is actually hitting its target, and people understand where you're coming from and the purpose of the reason why you say things. Because I hear it all the time, constantly, and a lot of times it's tough to tune out the voices that are not the ones that you're trying to reach. All the time I'll hear from people that like I'm too aggressive, I'm too over the top, they don't get where I'm coming from, and like that I'm just being harsh or these type of things. But again, I try and keep reminding myself of that person that I was years ago and that sort of voice that I needed. And for me, I think that this is a super timely conversation with a lot of the crazy things that have been going on in the world. But I will say that for me, magic was everything when it came to me getting some power in my life stopped feeling powerless, stopped feeling like a victim all the time. It kind of taught me that reality was malleable, and not only was it malleable, but this reality, this world was a battlefield. And I needed to take that kind of like leadership perspective, start looking at my life as a war front, and that I needed to start figuring out how to get the skills and the motivation and the discipline, really important there, to kind of start to figure out what the fuck I want and go after it and start taking it and using magic as a way to conquer your own weaknesses and then gain ground in this. Because, I feel like the stereotype of the kind of born to lose, bad deck from the start kind of guy. And it really gave me that bottom ground, nothing place to start from, where each and every step forward felt monumentous. And it made me feel like I was building up this really strong momentum through magic and how that was teaching me about myself. And then as I learned more about myself, my magic then took a step forward. And, this is oftentimes in very mundane ways. And that's the way that you know that your inner work is working. I think that a lot of times now, and that's where the harshness comes in, is that people just want to keep it inner. They want to just keep it in the realm of feelings. But if it's not manifesting in the physical world into some capacity, then are you really doing anything at all? And that's where I think a lot of times people find my particular messaging and the way that I talk and the way that I communicate might be upsetting them, hurting their feelings a little bit. But I think sometimes people's feelings need to be hurt. If you've been engaged for a long time and are trying to present yourself as some sort of authority within the witchcraft or magic community or whatever, and you're like living in abject poverty still, you're depressed, you're not really checking off any of those boxes that are typically of what most people would consider success in this world, I think it's really hard to sell yourself as somebody that's a model that anybody should be looking after for advice. And you should try to become that so that you can, become somebody that you would want to look up to. If that answers your question.
It does. Especially like, so kind of like, I mean, you pretty much answered it like within the first 10 seconds, kind of like, it was just kind of like magic was monumental for you, kind of like taking back control. Now, do you think that like that idea of taking back control, see, I fully believe in magic and deities and entities. I fully believe in this, and I don't want to degrade, kind of like that belief. But, I mean, for the sake of question's sake and being thorough, do you think that there's a certain placebo effect that happens with magic, and the idea that, magic is about controlling the world around you and using yourself as kind of like the conduit to kind of like create that manifestation? Do you think that there's a placebo effect that happens? Do you think it is actually a more kind of like tangible kind of effect?
So I totally will recommend people kind of go oftentimes the chaos magic route of getting into the occult, getting into mysticism, getting into magic, those kind of things, because I think that most people are naturally skeptical. Maybe if somebody was already coming from another religion or something like that, and that wasn't a hang up of theirs, I might go a different route. But for most people are inherently skeptical, think this stuff is probably quackery and bullshit, and they need to be kind of like given the push ahead anyway to, hey, have some fun, man, treat it like some fucking finger paints and just start making a mess, just for the hell of it, And I think that that's the beautiful thing about chaos magic, is it tells you like, hey man, this stuff might all be in your fucking head, but go give it a shot anyway, because weird stuff starts to happen. Like, and it really encourages you to just get out there and play, and then all of a sudden you start having these experiences that you're like, well, wait a second, this is getting really weird. I'm not actually sure if this is all going on in my head anymore. Or maybe you just have a fun time and sit there and have a giggle about it. But most times, I find that people start realizing when they kind of let the barriers down and allow themselves to kind of like have that freedom and that ability to not judge themselves and take down some of the borders that they have around their mind and their skepticism, really strange things start to happen. I'm actually noticing this right now because my girlfriend is a very open-minded atheist, very much in the kind of nihilistic school of philosophy, which when we started dating about 2 years ago was really interesting, because I'm definitely more of the like Nietzschean sort of positive existentialist mind.
Same.
You know, if you're taking the spirituality out of the situation, you know, obviously that introduces a whole nother bit of factors into my personal perspective on the world. But she's of more of that classical nihilistic sort of bent. But through discussions and stuff, I think that I've started to influence her a lot over the years. But recently, I mean, in the last year and a half or so, both her and I decided to go completely 100% sober. Kind of through frustration of not really having the social interaction and whatnot, she's in the last few months decided to start going to AA meetings and stuff, which has been really interesting because, you know, obviously you have to give it up to a higher power. So it's really cool because we have these conversations when she'll get home from there about, like, you know, what a higher power means to her. And I'll tell her from different traditions what that might be. You know, like, obviously I have like a decent bit of knowledge of different schools of Buddhism, you know, and then Hinduism, and then Thelema, and then from the left-hand path in the West, and that kind of stuff, and the ways that all those different traditions look at what it would be a quote-unquote higher power outside of the traditional Judeo-Christian right-hand path sort of conception of that. And then it's interesting to see her kind of playing with those ideas now, and then, you know, also investing in meditation practice and also prayer, all because of these kind of AA meetings, and while still having a heavy skepticism. But finding almost right out of the gate that it's having some kind of positive effect, and that's really where the proof is, and that these timeless sort of things that seem cliche and we want to avoid out of our skepticism and stuff do show fruits the second that we decide to investigate them and get in there, give them a shot, and really get the discipline out of them.
Exactly. I think being open to those kinds of things kind of like definitely kind of help people.
Yeah, real quick. I don't want to reverse back too far, but I want to bring up a point. It's just to talk about the placebo effect, right? Yeah. This is 4 minutes into it ago, and I just have to. One of the things that people like to bring up or often speak about is the placebo effect, right? And they look at it. I'm not saying you're doing it this way, Malice, but in general, we look at it as kind of like a negative thing. It's like, oh, it's your mind making that happen. And I'm like, think about what you just said there. If your placebo effect is your mind actually making something happen, that's like the best form of magic and manifestation. So everybody's kind of like just paying attention and talking about, oh yeah, that must be the placebo effect of whatever it is you're doing. I'm like, to me, that really is the manifestation of magic. It is partially the placebo effect. There's more to it than that, obviously simplifying, but just kind of wanted to point out that whole, when I think of something as we're working on it, we're processing it, and it's the placebo effect, to me, that's really the art of manifestation and something that's going to affect you using your mind and the things that are around you to make that actually happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
I
definitely
completely agree with that. Like that is 100% like an awesome, really good thing to bring up. And it's really funny because for me, I think a lot of the black magic spell work that I really like am attracted to and find most potent is stuff that, like, I'll feel like I'm almost casting a spell into a mirror, because again, it's that power of the mind, and I'm using my own mind to cast a spell on my mind, you know,
Exactly.
because you're trying to continue growing. And then another thing that I think of with you bringing up this topic is I told a story, I forget what it was, recently on TikTok, and somebody started coming at me saying, oh, I was talking about a tattoo that I had, and I brought up a kind of mythological story about Van Gogh cutting his ear off, and that he gave it to a woman that he was in love with. You know, some people argue it was a prostitute, some people argue that he was just basically having a delusional sort of like hallucination after a fight with somebody, and that's why he cut the ear off. And like, for me though, the story that I originally heard it as, I said to this person that I've never really been all that interested in reality. I'm more interested in mythology, much more interesting and useful to me. You know, the facts of like what is the reality, which is highly contested with Van Gogh and many historical characters, really doesn't interest me all that much. It's all about the effects that I get from the stories, whether or not they were true or not. That's all religions, that's all mythologies, you know. Snorri Sturluson, who wrote the Norse Eddas, was a an Icelandic, I believe 7th century Christian monk. And he was actually the one who wrote down a lot of the Norse myths so that they wouldn't be lost to time. Right there, yeah. And it was because he thought that the Christians of his day were losing their ability to kind of read mythology and get the most out of it because they were so hung up on things like, did the biblical Christ actually exist? Where is he buried? Where is the body? Where is the Shroud of Turin? Where is the, like they wanted physical proof for all these things, which can have its place, but the importance is the story, the mythology, much like the placebo effect. It's about the results. Who really cares how you get there? If there's truth to be found there, if there's power to be found there, then who really fucking cares?
Exactly. No, like when I talk about the placebo effect, like when I mention like a placebo, I'm not referring to it in like a negative light, and I understand 100% what Mystic is talking about, and I completely agree. I think having that power over your own mind, being able to use something to kind of motivate your mind to move forward, I think is a positive thing, and I think that's like the beginning of manifestation. But so one of the things that I've been trying to do with this podcast, and I've been trying to do it indirectly, because I don't want to do it like other TV shows or podcasts where they directly dig for shit and try to like pull up like bullshit scenarios to make people go, ooh, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to talk about people's actual real life experiences with shit, right? Like full on, like this is what actually fucking happened. I don't want people putting sugar on it or fucking frosting to make it sound better. But one of the things that I've been trying to do with this podcast is I've had my experiences with, entities and deities and things like that. They're few and far between. Like, I'm not going to lie. I've not had a huge slew of fucking, experiences that prove to me shit exists, but I've had my own personal experiences. And so my question as to whether or not it was placebo or real world was kind of like this idea of like, did you actually connect to something? Did you feel like you actually connected something that's beyond your total understanding to help you through certain things in your life? Like, I don't like asking that question directly because that opens up a floodgate for people to have the possibility to bullshit, right? So I want that type of shit to come out naturally, right? But one of the things that I want to kind of present with this podcast is to try to find that, right? Because there's a lot of people that come into this podcast looking for those types of answers. Like, am I going to be able to come into this and actually be able to connect to something? Am I going to be able to like be connected with something, have something pull me in and say, I want to help you? Like, so a lot of people are looking for that, right? Because a lot of us, like, they have dealt with trauma, me specifically, feel really the fuck alone. Like, we could be surrounded by people, surrounded by friends, surrounded by family, and we still feel alone. So one of the things I've been trying to kind of like dig at, but indirectly, is that idea of, did you connect to something? Did something connect to you? Did you see it? Did you feel it? Did you smell it? Did you taste it? Like, was it there, or was it just in your head? Or was that all you needed was for the idea that maybe it was in your head, maybe it wasn't, not to say that, psychological manifestation is invalid. Of course, it's 100% valid, but that's kind of like one of the things I'm kind of digging at, right, with the podcast in general, and especially with this series, because I want to help people know that we've all gone through shit. We've all been through things. Like, I've been through a fucking fuck ton. But, I mean, compared to you, maybe it's nothing. Or maybe it's a lot more. I mean, it depends on the person, right? That is 100% subjective. So the idea is just that idea that, is there something there? Or do you think that there's something there? Or do you think that your mind is the only thing you need to manifest it, to make it real? I don't know if I'm making any sense right now.
Yeah, look. So just real quick to clarify that, and I don't want to jump in because I want to hear BikerWitch, like what your thought process on that. But the thought that to me that comes to mind, Malice, when you say that is, the placebo effect is the definition of working through your trauma. That is what the placebo effect is. You are using your mind and your brain to access that information to work through your trauma. So when you actually talk about attaining or touching or actually seeking out and getting your access to the deity or whatever it is you're looking at, the placebo effect is exactly that. But clinically, the placebo effect is generally somebody who gets something out of just thinking that it works. And I'm like, that's like the highest form of manifestation, period, which is exactly what I'm getting from what you're saying, if that makes sense. I mean, that's how you manifest and you work through shadow work. You work through trauma. You work through all of this stuff. It's the placebo effect. It is, I am making the decisions myself and I am expecting the result. It's so mote it be. That's what so mote it be means. It means I am willing it to happen, so it will happen. And if you don't believe that or feel that, then it doesn't.
Well, to comment on some of the things that Malice was talking about, I think back when I was really searching when I was younger, and I really felt disconnected from everything. And I was at the height of sort of depression and really about to kind of start my journey in the adult world and feeling pretty grim about it. I would have looked at something like Pascal's wager, for instance, which is still something I'm hypercritical of, which is this idea of Pascal talked about that essentially, like, if you die and you lived a life where you denied God, then basically, like, you're shit out of luck, because in the afterlife, you're basically going to have to answer for that and you won't have an answer. But if you dedicated your life to God and then you die and there is a God, you're golden. If there wasn't, then you still lived a good life and devoted yourself to this and that and the other. Back then, I would have totally laughed at the entirety of this idea. Certainly the Christian foundation of this is still something that I'm hypercritical of, but I think humankind needs something outside of themselves to kind of devote themselves to feel like there's a higher purpose, something beyond just the individual, a larger cause that they're giving themselves up to. And for me, I think that we need to find these things that are greater than our own safety, our own comfort, these greater causes that we devote ourselves to. And in a lot of ways, my criticism of that Christian thing is like, there's any number of gods out there. You know, how do you know that the Christian pathway is the correct one? You know, like, if you devoted your life to a Christian monastic lifestyle and then you find out that Shiva, Rudra, was the god the whole time, then you're still out of luck. But for me, it was a path of self-exploration to figure out which pathway is going to resonate with me. And then no matter what, I decided that that was the hill I was going to die on. So I don't really care. I personally have a lot of respect for religious zealots, you know, because I see so many people, especially here in the Western world, people I come in contact with in every day, that are dealing with the depressing fact that they don't actually believe in anything. They don't feel like connected to any higher purpose. They don't feel connected to anything that makes their life meaningful. For me, I found a pathway that made me feel connected to something larger than myself. I felt like a vessel for some of these demonic entities that I was working with. I felt like I was a physical vessel for them to have influence in this world. And that was what made me feel connected and like I had a higher purpose. So I do everything I can to live a life that is devotional and in a way will serve those which I feel that I have been chosen to devote myself to. And that's a hill that I'm willing to die on. Like, whether or not somebody can objectively prove it, I have chosen this is my cause that I am going to be a zealot for, and I will metaphorically, you know, blow myself up to, you know? It's like, in a lot of ways, the most extreme sort of religious jihadists out there, at least they have purpose in life. So in a lot of ways, while I think it's wrong to hurt other people, we should look at the devotion and the willingness to suffer and be discomforted and for something higher and outside of ourselves as something that we should strive to have and we should seek out in this life. Find what you love and let it kill you. You know, 100%. But again, like, I want to strive that, like, hurting other people is not the reason. I think if you're starting to go down that path, you got all different other kinds of issues, and you're probably getting led astray. But I think, again, the devotion to something outside of yourself is so key to people's mental health. And I think that more times than not, I'm seeing a lot of people suffering really, really badly because they don't have that sort of connection. They don't feel like a vessel for something else that is greater than themselves.
No, I can completely vibe with that. Part of me wants to kind of like explain like how I kind of got into, because how I got into the left-hand path. What's that?
Please do.
I'm trying to think of how I can do it with a roundabout way without giving too many details. It's something like when we talk about traumatic experiences, for me personally, I'll put it this way: it's something you'd watch in a fucking movie. It's something that you would think that's like this, that doesn't happen to anybody really, And like when we think about knowing somebody that's been through something like that, we're just kind of like, I don't know anybody that's been through that. I know that because I used to be that person, and then I was that person that people knew but didn't know that they went through that. If that makes any sense. I'll put it as general as I possibly can without giving any details to it. Scarlett Bales knows exactly what I'm talking about. I think that Scarlett Bales is trying to. I'm going to plug Scarlett really quick. Scarlett is working on becoming a therapist, or kind of like working with people like with trauma and things like that. And I personally feel that the direction that she is going to be a unicorn in the community, because she is the only person I've ever met that has an understanding of the clinical psychological aspect of things, but fully understands the left-hand path and follows the left-hand path. So, like she's a fucking unicorn in the community. And I feel that like she is going to have so much work, like she's not going to be able to get to everybody. Like she's just not going to be. She's going to have so many people that are going to want to work with her.
She's going to need a nurse assistant.
It's going to be unfucking believable. Because people like her, like through my experience of looking for therapists, they're spiritual therapists, but they're all God related. Nobody like her on the fucking planet that I know of personally.
Complete new age and just batshit crazy.
Yeah. So themselves. Like, yeah. So, I just want to like kind of like plug her really quick. I am going to be doing work with her. She knows what I'm talking about. I've
not for nothing, like keep me in the loop, please, because that sounds super interesting to me, and I want.
Yeah. So, well, we had her on 2 episodes ago. So if you want to see like what she's like and shit, go back and watch that episode. Like you'll see her perspectives on this topic. And it's fucking amazing. It's enlightening. So I went through something very traumatic when I was probably around 7 years old. And to give a little bit of context, I was taken advantage of in a very extreme way. And as I was kind of like in this position, where I kind of wasn't able to do anything, like physically or anything like that, I saw something in front of me. Like I was kind of fading out, right? And I just didn't have the mind for anything. I remember this much. Grant you, remember, I'm 36. I'm going to be 36 next month. Now, I was 7 then, so you're talking, 35, like 34 years, right? Something like that. And so I'm in this position. I'm freezing my ass off. I can't move. I can't get free. And then something just kind of shows up in front of me. No fucking idea what the fuck it is. Like I can vaguely describe it to you as humanoid, shit like that. And I felt the binds that were holding me loosen up. And I was able to get away. Now, this was on the news, like upstate New York, it was in the fucking news. My parents did a very good job and a ridiculous amount of money to keep my name out of it. But, you know, that time period, 1994, 1995, like you'll be able to, you go back into public record, you'll find it. And I remember running to the road. I remember getting picked up. I remember getting brought to a police station and all of that shit. And it wasn't until 7 years later, when I was like 14, that I had this habit of going to like Barnes and Noble and going to their occult section and just kind of flipping through fucking books. And I remember finding this encyclopedia of demons or shit like that. And I was kind of curious. I started flipping through it. And it landed on Baphomet. And I was like, that's what I saw. Like that traditional picture, that Aleister Crowley, that French, depiction of Baphomet, like that we all know and love, right?
Yeah, that one.
That's what I saw. That's what I saw in front of me. That's what let me go. That's what set me free. This is why when people come into this chat and they talk about Baphomet only being a representation and not actually being an actual entity, when you talk about dying on a hill, that's a fucking hill that I will die on. Because I went through it. So when I talk about magic and black magic and the left-hand path, healing trauma, it almost feels like Baphomet made it so I didn't even have to fucking deal with it. Like, just talking about it, I'm choking up. I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, and I feel so pathetic like that because I'm 35 years old. I'm going to be 36, and I'm like, just like, But
I feel for you because, like, I think in a lot of ways, and I don't want to speak for you or anything like that, but you almost like create these egregores of like childhood you, and you still feel empathy for that person. And I think that that's a healthy thing to do. And that's something that I've gone through is like, you almost think of yourself and then it simultaneously makes you feel empathy and compassion for that person who feels like abstract and away from you, like some kind of separate person, even though you experienced it. It feels like another person that you want to go back in time and like help that child.
Exactly.
But it also makes you angry for all the other adults that were in the area. At least in my case, that like, hey, why didn't you fucking step up and do anything, But we can't go in the past. So like, we learn from that. And then basically you try and identify that in the present moment and try and put a stop to that shit where you can,
Yeah. I mean, well, the way that I kind of deal with it now as an adult, like, I mean, I have a 7-year-old son. And
that's got to be the ultimate in allowing that to exist outside of yourself so you could have compassion for it. I couldn't imagine.
Mm-hmm. So you're 100% correct. And for me, it's one of those things that I look back and I remember exactly what you're talking about. Like, the people that were around there that were supposed to protect you that didn't. And is there an unhealthy aspect to it? Yes, there is. There is an unhealthy aspect to it because I get overprotective. Like, I have gone off on people for looking at my son wrong. Which is one of the reasons why, like, I don't drop him off at school. I don't pick him up from school. Because if I see anybody look at him weird or I perceptively think that somebody is looking at him weird, I'll go off.
Yeah.
I've done it in the past. So, I'm not...
Weird. It's weird, too. It's weird, too, that no matter how much work we do, we're always going to have those hang-ups that are based on the experiences that we've had. And you just need to kind of accept them. I mean, I had a bit of I want to say an argument or a disagreement with my girlfriend recently when she came home from an AA meeting. Because she was saying about how she wished that she could, just have a normal relationship to alcohol. Mm-hmm. And I started going on a bit of a tirade because I was like, I don't think that there is a normal relationship with alcohol. And I realized I was being a little too harsh in that situation because I had to reflect and realize that me growing up, I never knew anybody who had a healthy relationship to alcohol. I've never known anybody who's had a healthy relationship with just about any fucking substance. And that's going to pepper the way that I go through my entire life, that I always am going to see certain actions as black and white, negative or positive, you know? And yep. I think in the same way, you're always going to be skeptical of people around your kid because of things that you went through. And that's not typical of everybody else, but that's just the way that your experience on this planet has gone. And that's going to pepper the way that you naturally react with the world. That's just natural.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to kind of comment on the alcohol thing, like, I mean, I still drink. Obviously, you're watching me do it right now.
Yeah.
And though I'd like to say, I would like to play the card and say that, you know, I stop at 3 drinks and, you know, I know my limits. I'm not going to lie. There have been nights where I've been extra stressful and shit like that. And I have gone through 3/4 of a bottle of fucking JD without even thinking about it. Like, I'm talking to somebody and I'm just fucking drinking. And then the next thing I know, like, there's like this much left in the fucking bottle. And I think that you're...
I've been there too and noticed it about myself and was like, hey, you know what? This is an ongoing kind of pattern here. And I need to be the one along the line to break it, you know? But that's the exact reason that, like, you kind of turn yourself into being so hard about it. Because, like, again, like, I think about all my friends I even had growing up. And as much as people say that they're that person who could have 2 or 3, I don't know if I've ever met that person.
It's true.
My entire family, and I know this isn't necessarily the subject, my entire family is alcoholics. I've had, so far, of my 9 aunts and uncles on my mom's side, 2 of them have died from esophageal cancer related to drinking. And my mom, heavy alcoholic, she stopped later in life. You know, schizophrenia and lithium will do that to you. But I got to the point where I was drinking, and I know Malice and we've talked about this a few times. I would drink probably between the ages of 17 and 22. I was blackout drunk 3 or 4 times a week. And it wasn't for any specific, like, trauma or reason. I liked not being in control of who I was because it made me change who I was, right? That's part of that trauma response. But one night I got so angry because I couldn't get a door opened. I literally broke the glass metal door off the hinges. And then I stopped drinking for like 2 years. Like 0. Now, Rook and I drink probably drink, I don't know, weekly. Pretty much Saturday nights around 8 o'clock. Just for the record. It's just something about being around Malice makes me want to drink more.
Thanks.
But no, seriously, like, I literally, if I wouldn't have taken that time frame, because I mean, I got into a lot of other stuff too, not just drinking. But that time frame of literally 3-4 years, not a single drop of anything. Like, we did not drink at all before I was able to actually determine, you know, what night, where am I at, what am I going to be doing, where am I going to be that's going to be safe for me to drink. That's a part of the trauma response, right? Because alcohol, it's not liquid courage. It is something to allow you to it's almost like doing shadow work without the actual work. You let free of all the things that bothered you, but you're not addressing them, and that's kind of where the negativity comes in from it. So the fact that somebody drinks isn't necessarily, to me, and I know that's not what you're saying specifically, Miles, but just the fact that somebody drinks isn't a problem to me. Like, it's not an issue, it's not a concern. What would be a concern is if you're at a point where you're drinking where it's affecting what you do on a daily basis and how you manage your behaviors and how you manage your house and how you manage your relationships. That's when it becomes a problem. And at this point, you know, for me, it's a part of my life, and I feel comfortable doing it at home. The last time I got really drunk out in public, that didn't go over very well for me. I think Rook ended up driving us home, even though I would refuse to get out of the car, and threw up in the door pocket of my car. I'm like, who does this as an adult, right? But point being, you know, everybody's, of course, at different stages of life and different part of the process. It's not the drinking that's the problem. It's how it affects your life and your processes that you're doing, and whether or not you're at a point where you need to stop a trend that you've seen that's happening, like what BikerWitch was talking about. You see that trend start happening. I've seen this. I need to stop this. It's my turn. I need to put my foot down and say, I am the end of this trend of what's happening in life, and be able to make that decision to move forward. So being dry is a really good thing for appropriate people at the appropriate time, but in and of itself, it's a really good thing. And capability of being able to determine what you're going to do next or what your issue is or what your problem is. Like right now, if I was a person that still at my age was still going out to the bars and single and clubs, I'd be an absolute mess right now. I'm lucky by circumstance, and I recognize that, and I think that's part of our process through our trauma that allows me to still partake and enjoy things that that I would otherwise probably overindulge in to the point where it would not be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
See, what I love about this conversation right off the bat that I think like sits in stark contrast to most of the magic and witchcraft community, though, is like we've been talking about solutions here, which is really what I don't think you don't see enough of. You know, I feel like a lot of people, it's just turned into this, it's almost like a badge of honor, and people seem to want to dive more into creating these narratives around how they're a victim and how aggrandizing their trauma and wearing it as almost like merit badges or something. It's a very bizarre sort of phenomenon that I've seen, especially like around like the witch talk community, in on TikTok and around Twitter and whatnot. And I think if you've been engaged for any significant amount of time, you're not a complete beginner in this kind of space, and you've been doing this work, you should be lessening these sorts of things, not increasing them. You should be getting a handle on them, not turning it into some kind of thing that everybody should rally around. That's why I really enjoyed it. Like, everybody here is talking about how we've moved forward beyond these sort of things and not let them dictate our lives and not allow them to make us perpetually feel like we have all the excuses now to not achieve anything. Because, what are we just going to wait till the next reincarnation and hope again for the next time that maybe it'll be a bit better? Is that what we're going to hope for? Because again, we might only have one go at this. Again, I am a zealot for this idea that the path I have chosen is the correct one, but I think it's definitely a disservice to think that we shouldn't make the best of the time that we have in this incarnation to do whatever good we can. Not to just chalk it up to a fucking loss because you had a bad start at the beginning.
Yeah, that's a lot to think about because I think it really is. It's a heavy pull because everybody who's experienced life in any way, shape, or form is going to experience it through their own perspective, right? There's no doubt about that, right? And when I look back and I see, I've not led a charmed life, but I've led a life of. I felt secure in my early formative years. Not so much as a 14 or 15-year-old that kind of all fell apart, but who hasn't? And when we talk about working through trauma, and we talk about working through our paths and our processes, it's not so much the to me anyway at this point, it's not whether or not my trauma is bigger than your trauma. And I think that's one thing that happens a lot lately. I see it.
Yes,
yes
it does.
I think it's part of why I'm not a witch talker.
Disgustingly so.
It's like my trauma is bigger than your trauma, I remember certain specific traumas, and I am telling you, like, I'm so not sucking up. I don't even know if she's still in, but like I am completely fanboying with Scarlet. Like it's a thing since Scarlet's been around. Like I just want to be Scarlet. Like it's funny, but because since those moments, I've rekindled an idea of looking at what some of those traumas I've had, and I've looked back and I'm like, is it really a trauma? Some of these things that I experienced, like they're so small. I'm like, well, for me they were, but I don't need to blast them and say, look, oh my God, I can't believe I was treated this way, and life was just so terrible to me. And then the opposite effect of that is the new agey, I'm going to rise above everything, and it just doesn't matter. Water off a duck's back. None of those things are effective in real life. Shit happens. We got to deal with it. It happens to us. Nobody's better than somebody else's stuff. Nobody's baggage is bigger than somebody else's baggage. It's your baggage. It's yours. You work through it. You process it. You make the steps that you need necessary to move forward through your traumas, right? And you live your life as best you can, but it's not about comparing it to the person beside you of whose trauma is bigger or who's had a harder hand dealt with them. But you can also look about it, no matter how many ways you look at what your life has dealt with, at some point, I do believe that everybody has an opportunity to take a step back. And I haven't done it enough myself, but to take a step back and say one of two things, and both things can be true at the same time, right? I have a trauma that is huge and I'm downplaying it, or I have a trauma that is so small and I'm exaggerating it. But does it matter? And it goes back even in my mind to the placebo effect. It doesn't matter. It's my perception, your perception. So I really do wish people would necessarily kind of pull back on that whole, my trauma is bigger than your trauma. Just let your trauma be your trauma and work through it and try to work with people. Like, I just don't understand it. It's
for
part
some
of that.
reason that reminds me of like a song in a fucking musical. Like
God.
There's something like there's a musical I saw that has a song like my something is better than your something. I don't fucking know.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I think, you know, the linguistic kind of rhetoric shift might be a small one, but I think the mental shift is a really big one for me. Is that, you know, people start seeing life as something that happens to them when I think that life is something that happens for you. That's the shift you have to make. Again, that might seem like a small sentence change, but that mentality change is huge. And I think no matter what happens to you in your life, that's not the contest. You know, the contest for me is what the fuck do you do with it? You know, like, who cares what the fuck happened to you? What did you do to, like, move beyond that? How did you use that as fuel to turn it into something else? Like, really, like, we need to stop putting so much emphasis on, like, what happened to you and more on what the fuck you did with it. Like, that makes for a good story. Who the fuck wants to read a story where something just bad happens and then you just sit and cry about it? Like,
exactly.
You want to read the story where they conquered it, you know?
Well, I think
that was one of the big shifts for me, though, is just basically realizing that, like, every single thing that happened to me, you know, from I've been victim of, like, abuse from older people when I was a child, like, as far as, like, neglect, abandonment from when I was born. I slept on park benches. I was hunted by family members, sexual assault on various occasions, had a gun pointed in my face, got robbed at knife point when I was in elementary school, got robbed at knife point again in my 20s. Like, I've been through, but, like, you know what? I built a fucking amazing tattoo studio. I have helped a ton of people in this life. I get messages from people all the time who are looking to, like, move forward in their lives and that and make something of themselves. You know, I drive a fucking luxury car. I ride around on Harley motorcycles. I make my own fucking schedule every day. Like, it's about what you do with it. And it makes me thankful for the things that happen to me. As much as it was fucked up when it happened, I am really happy that it happened to me, because it gave me perspective and it gave me drive and a reason to rise.
All right, so let's break this down, because there's a lot that I want to say to what you just said. Like, there's a lot.
Me too.
So all right, so first and foremost, like, let's start at the end point, right? So you're talking about being thankful, right? Gratitude is a huge fucking thing. Like, in my personal experience, I can't speak for anybody else, but my personal experience, so the best beginning to a morning is a good evening. And for me, it's what I do is at night, I try to think of 3 things that I'm grateful for before I go to sleep. And I go to sleep with that idea of the three biggest things that I'm most grateful for at the end of that day. And then when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about are 3 different things that I'm also grateful for. So I end my day and I begin my day with gratitude, right? Now, where my day goes from there is dependent on situations and shit like that. I mean, my friends have seen me, you know, spiral and shit like that, and I'm not perfect. I'm human. Also, going into kind of like the idea of, you know, talking about your past, right? Like how you deal with it. So listening to you speak and then kind of like reflecting that onto myself, you know, I kind of look at that, and even like with Mystic, like just knowing Mystic, because Mystic's my best friend, you know, I think that there's a huge dependency on how we decide, or how, whether or not we're able, rather decide, but able to find a positive outlet for the things that have happened to us, that energy, because that energy is instilled in us. It's energy. right? That trauma is energy, and we need to put that energy someplace, right? And a lot of, go ahead.
Just the positive aspect. The thing is that makes it hard is the positive aspect of gratitude is something that comes, generally speaking, towards the end of the processing of whatever that trauma is, not at the beginning, right? So you get to the point where you're working through a trauma, you're working through a process or whatever's happening to you, and your gratitude becomes later, and people see that as, how the hell can you be grateful for something that's negative, or why should you be? And those are two different answers. Why am I? Because I made it through it and I'm still here. Why should I be? Because I'm bigger and better than the traumas that have created me. But that also sometimes gives people a false opportunity or a false feeling of them having dealt with that process or really gone through it. That's where I found myself in a couple of places, is the feeling of accomplishment of not having those things break me down. But I still haven't gone through all of them and got to the other end of some of those things, which I think is a lifelong process. But it's the same thing, exactly what you're saying. It's that whole idea and that whole process of not being grateful, not necessarily being grateful that they occurred, but being grateful for the ability to have been given opportunity to adjust your perspective and your perception to what it is that you've experienced. Because were I the same person, or you, BikerWitch, or Malice, were any of us different people than who we currently are and the makeup that makes us who we are, those experiences may not have created gratitude, right? So it's really hard for other people to kind of perceive that in that same atmosphere or environment, so to speak. So explaining it can seem to some people not necessarily disingenuous, but they don't necessarily pull in the same meaning from it when you say gratitude. It's like the first thing I think some people feel like with gratitude, it's like, oh, thank you, God, I really woke up for the day. I am great. That's not the gratitude I think you're talking about. The gratitude I think you're talking about is for being broken and for being human and for having feelings and for having thoughts and for having perspectives and experiences. Once you can be grateful for those things that exist in you, most of the other things kind of just work their way into you and you start feeling really good about life in general.
So the thing is so for me, the things that have happened to me, they still cause me pain. I would be lying if I said they didn't. So anytime that I actually get into a deep conversation about the things that have happened to me, especially the bigger things, there's still a part of me at almost 36 years old that doesn't understand how it's possible that there is a sufficient amount of irresponsibility and blindness in people around me to allow what happened to me happen to me. I don't project that. I try not to project that onto other people, but I mean, it's there, right? And it still hurts. But at the same time, I'm also grateful that those things happen to me, because I'm not going to lie. I can look in the mirror and I can see myself. I'm proud and happy to see who I am as a person. Like, I'm not disgusted by the person that I see in a mirror. Like, I'm proud of the person that I've become. And the things that have happened to me are directly responsible for me being who I am. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, for as much as certain things hurt, I cannot deny that those things are a part of who I am. And one of the things I'm most grateful for in the history of my life is having artistic people around me, my mother, my grandfather, because having those creative people around me showed me a different way to kind of control, direct, and kind of output that energy, that negative energy, like when I feel down. Which is why, like, when you look at the artwork, when you look at the stream, stuff like that, it's dark. There's no fucking rainbows and puppies and fucking flowers, right? It's demons and blood and fucking pentagrams and fucking... It's that shit. And that shit I relate to and I feel comfortable with, and that's what's inside coming out. Like, when you're a kid and people ask, well, why can't you draw flowers? I don't fucking see flowers. That's why I don't fucking draw flowers. I don't fucking see it. Stop asking me why I don't fucking draw rainbows and fucking puppies to make you comfortable, because it doesn't make me comfortable. Because that's not reality. That's not what I feel. Flowers.
I think they'd be neat looking.
Well, if I did them the way I wanted to, they probably would.
You should. I'm serious.
you know, and so I'm just grateful that I have an outlet that I can take that fucking energy, that negative fucking muck, that bullshit, that sludge that's inside of me, that's going to be there for the rest of my life, and put it out into the world in a way that is constructive, artistic, and something that other people can appreciate that doesn't hurt other people. That's what I'm appreciative of. That's what I'm most grateful for, that I have that outlet. Because a lot of people don't fucking have that outlet. And that sludge turns into negative fucking vitriol that they start spitting at other fucking people because they don't know what the fuck to do with it. So when I look at Biker and the things that Biker is saying, I'm like, dude, I'm right on the fucking level with you, man, because like what you're doing it differently. You got a tattoo studio, shit like that, you know, but you're still doing it. You're taking that shit that fucking happened to you, that fucking sludge that's inside of you, and you found an outlet for it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's for me, that's the most important thing. Like if you've got that shit inside, don't let it fucking sit there. Get that shit out in a way that doesn't hurt other people.
And I think in a lot of ways, like for me, it was the left-hand path, but a lot of this like kind of spiritual kind of going inward shadow work process is parsing out those kind of like traumas or feelings that we have about the world and some of that black muck and taking it apart and seeing how we can use that in the world to leverage power and that kind of stuff, you know? I think something that's been coming up for me a lot, like when I was born, I never really felt in my life at any point like I was wanted, you know? Like my father pretty much split from when I was young. The rest of my family resented me because I was his son. He was literally an outlaw biker. So, you know, like that always made me feel like an outsider. And then as I got older, I kind of embraced things that were kind of outsider culture, got into the left-hand path, these kind of things. And that gave me to now feel like my outsider status within society was now within my control. You know, and essentially like I could start to parse out these taboos within mainstream culture, start dissecting them and realizing like the power that I had as an outsider. Because so many other people had to deal with the shadow work of the keeping up with the Joneses kind of crap, that white picket fence kind of stuff, all this sort of thing. And I realized by the time that I had become conscious of these things, I wasn't even playing that game already because I was always on the outside of it. And realizing and understanding your position as a person within the world is a powerful thing through those sorts of things. So I never had to play that game. You know, I was never trying to get the white picket fence, 1.5 kids and all that kind of stuff. Like that's never felt like my life path. You know, really leaning into that kind of outsider and then, you know, adopting a name like BikerWitch because, you know, that felt correct to me. Like that's the path that I've been on my entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, I actually, like, one of the things I've appreciated about you, like, when I first started watching your videos was the name, right? Not for me. Like, I like motorcycles. Like, one day I'm going to own a Fat Boy. You know, that's in the plans. Right? But I want a classic. I don't want a new one. I want a 67 fucking Fat Boy.
I'll stick with my Supra. I need 4 wheels.
67, Japan. That's a good choice.
Yeah, that's what I want. Like, but decked out. Like, I want to fucking goth it out. You know, with all the fucking details and shit. You know, not obviously the name though, not for me. Like, I don't like. I feel. I don't want to get too much into this because it's kind of irrelevant to a certain point. But like, you know, when I watch certain things like Sons of Anarchy and shit like that, right? Like, which is like what popular culture has, like an understanding of like biker culture, right? Which is based around kind of like biker culture, like the 60s and 70s. The one thing that I identify the most with that, not even really identify, but like I feel just like relatable to, is the brotherhood. Like, that's the one thing, like, when I look for people to say that, like, so, for example, Mystic, right? Mystic, because he's a fucking Virgo and shit like that, he can be distant sometimes, but I know for a fact that Mystic is fucking ride or die. Like, I know that, like, if I really
I come from a biker
need him,
family, by the way. Both my dad and my mom are bikers.
So right, so like, so I know
not,
that like, if I
my dad
fucking
got in an
need
accident
him,
when I was on the back of it, so I have a problem with it. But still, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, there you go. No, it's all good, man.
I'm scared.
You know, but I know for a fact that if I really fucking need him, he will drop whatever the fuck it is he's doing, and he will fucking be there. And so, like, when I look for friendships, like, I'm not gonna lie, that's what I look for. Are you gonna fucking like if I can tell you that if you need me, I'm gonna drop what it is I'm doing. I'm gonna fucking be there. Can you do that? Like, I mean, that's my mind. Like, maybe it's not fair, right? But for me, that's the differential between a best friend, a good friend, and just a friend.
And not for nothing, that plays into the idea I was talking about earlier, where I was talking about that people typically don't have something greater than themselves, something outside of themselves to dedicate to. I think friendships like that, especially between like men of our age, is our age group ish, is becoming so rare. You know, we don't have that sense of brotherhood, and we don't have that sense of like, you know, inconveniencing ourselves for the benefit of somebody else. You know, we don't have those deep-seated sort of relationships anymore, and it's like in a lot of ways we need some of that. And
yes, we do.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times it's not encouraged within mainstream society. I mean, you know, look at, honestly, for whatever you think about them, a lot of the treatment of a lot of those bike clubs, you know, it's and, you know, even the mistrust of somebody who's a Mason or something like that. You know, these fraternal orders are not really seen by most people as positives. You know, even though I think, you know, I'm big into going to the gym, and I see it all the time. It's one of the few places I see it. You know, I'll maybe see the same two guys coming in all the time, spotting each other and being like, "You got one more fucking rep, dude. Don't fucking bitch out. You got one more fucking rep, dude." Like, you don't see that shit enough. You know, and that really gets me fucking fired up. But that should be the norm, you know? And
it should be. Well, I mean, I don't want to get political with it, but I feel that, like, there's a certain amount of kind of, like, guilt that's instilled into, like, male culture. And I agree with the idea of, like, toxic masculinity in the sense of saying you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to be emotional, you know, like, that's toxic, like, because you're human. You're supposed to feel your emotions.
Toxic masculinity is the reason why I still have no straight male friends, because I am scared of them for the most part. I am terrified of straight males because of how I've been treated in my life. I'm being honest. That's where toxic masculinity
where do I
comes
fit
from.
in that then? Because last time I checked, I was straight.
This is actually a subject I've thought about a good bit, though. I don't know how I feel about the whole terminology. I mean, honestly, because if there's toxic masculinity, which I think is just a lack of masculinity, personally, but if there was, then that implies the existence of toxic femininity, which I don't think people are willing to accept. You know,
I don't know that both like exist in like existentially or outside of themselves, but I think the idea of toxic masculinity for me as a person, it's not toxic masculinity. That's just stupid. It's the over exaggeration of what people think they're supposed to be, period, and they go so over exaggerated because they don't want to be seen as weak. And that's been my experience with a lot of people in my life is I see it in myself. Like, for a long time in my life, my voice is a little bit too twangy. I have a little bit too of the little gay hello, you know, just a little bit too much of that in my voice, and I was ashamed of that for up until 5 years ago. Now I don't give a fucking shit because I have way too much shit to worry about other than that, right? But leading up to that whole part of the process, it's just like, it's exhausting to try to be not what people presume as feminine in a world that represents and supports the necessity of masculinity. It is changing, in my opinion. It is getting better. Those things are changing, but those expectations are societal to a degree, but they're also internal. They're internalized, and that's where we have to make the change.
Can I say, though, I think this will actually play really well into what we're talking about today, is that in a lot of ways, I've always thought that it's always really resonated with me, this idea that confidence stems from competence. And when you become competent at something, the confidence naturally follows, is what I mean by that. And
100%.
While I think self-esteem is really important for people to have, I think that people are treating the symptoms, not the cause. And a lot of times you go into therapy and people say that you need to have self-confidence, and then they try and just basically build you up. You're building a wall that's not built on a strong foundation. I think that what it comes down to is one of the core facets of true masculinity is mastery, and strength and honor and courage and these sorts of masculine virtues. So, like,
I agree.
Personally, I think in a lot of ways, probably some of the reason why you don't care anymore to like hide that character in your voice, Mystic, is because you're a man that demonstrates mastery. You're smart, you're intelligent, you're confident because
Keep going.
Position of like, you don't have to fake the funk, like there's a lot of because, and they have to overcompensate because they're not showing up in a lot of those categories.
And I agree with that. I mean, I think that that's a really good way to put it. It's very important to kind of have that at this point in my life. But like the change for me has really been anyway, the change for me has been leading up into where I'm at and with the things that I do in my life. For example, I am extremely competent at hooking up a person who is currently having a major heart attack and might be on a coronary artery bypass graft. I can hook you up to probably 8 or 9 IVs. I can get all that started. I can clinically assess and evaluate a patient and pretty much protect you from everything that the doctor is going to do to probably hurt you or kill you, right? That's my job, to keep doctors from killing you. That competence is what has changed in my life. Like, I feel very competent at my job. And so what you're saying is very resonation as far as I identify with my job. And I'm going to say it's because I'm a Virgo, but it's really just because I'm a human.
No, 100%.
Your career, like you being competent, if you're an artistic person at tattoos and having somebody tell you like that tattoo's great, that feels good. That builds your confidence. That builds your competence of what it is that you're doing. And it's the same kind of idea. The problem is the organization or the categorization of those values individually for people, they have not caught up yet. So it's really hard for, I think, a societal generalization to kind of get to that point where they feel competent and confident as they should. And it's seen as right now as kind of like a participation trophy, for lack of a better phrase.
The interesting thing to me, though, is it's interesting to hear all that from you because on a lot of levels, I think men naturally, and this is just hardwired into our DNA, we measure each other by kind of like tactical survival virtues. I think a lot of times we're looking at each other as like, if shit hit the fan, can I rely on this person?
Oh, dude, I have a bug out bag, by the way. I'm good.
This further supports the point that I'm about to say. But one of the weird things, though, is that men are highly visual. We actually and we use a lot of visual cues to kind of like give the impression of something. And a lot of times when we're dealing with each other, and men will try to kind of take pot shots at each other and stuff like that, you're trying to see if you walk the walk and you talk the talk, if you're actually about what you're presenting forward. So the funny thing is when you're talking about your skill set and everything that you're able to do, for me, and I'm sure any man, you hear that skill set, that's somebody you want around when the shit hits the fan, whereas if you couldn't have the conversation, maybe I look better on paper to your traditional masculine kind of like thing because, I look strong and tough. But at the end of the day, I think when push came to shove with those kind of like tit for tat sort of conversations happening, all of a sudden you come up a lot because you have all of those mastery tactics that are very, very respectable from a masculine perspective, So on some level, I start to fall apart like a wet paper towel because I can't save somebody's fucking life if shit hits the fan like that. I'm good at fucking art shit and I have a mild modicum of some martial arts and I can lift a little bit. But you have a serious fucking skill, man. And that's true masculinity right now. And that makes you somebody that should be looked up to because you have that mastery and your confidence follows because of it.
Yeah, and I feel the exact same way about an artistic person or somebody who has the capability of spending some energy with a group of people that allows them to be confident and comfortable and calmative and actually express themselves in a way that other people can't. So, I mean, it goes every single which way, but I will tell you, if shit does hit the fan, I do have the firepower, the armaments, and I have the solar-powered chlorine generator and the water life straws and the food generation and the heirloom seeds. I've got all of that, and it's ready to go in a water pack. If we have to run, we're gone. This Virgo preps for shit.
Well,
apparently.
I could give you a face tattoo so you look a little more sketchy to anybody who might want to take our shit, and I got an okay armbar. So, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go with my. I have a whole chest plate down around my nipples. I can handle pain.
Fuck yeah.
Even though it felt like a fucking hot spoon digging my chest out, like that was fucking terrible, man. That was the worst pain I think I've ever felt in my entire life.
I actually did.
Like right here, this was the worst.
I
thought I was gonna die.
But I've had other spots that most people think are easy, and I've been miserable. So
I did 2 8-hour sessions for my chest tattoo. All of the shading in one session, and all the outlining in another, and all the color, everything, like all of that.
Terrible.
Oh, it was great. Anyway,
that was a lot. That was a lot. I mean, grant you, like, I mean, I'm a prepper too, but not to the level of Mystic. Like, I mean, I've got like a go bag. I've got some cash. Got some.
Do you know what my prepping is though? Do you, like this is where the toxic masculinity is funny, and I think that you might maybe get this. My go bags are not designed for me. They're designed to support the most amount of people they can possibly support in a group. It's not about me. If I die in the first 5 days, I would be more than happy to know that, knowing I die in the first 5 days, as long as everybody else has what they need to kind of get things started moving forward to the next step. I'm okay with that with my life.
That's great, man.
It scares me, but you know.
See, I'm a little different with that. Like, so I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'm willing to die for the people I care about. Like, I've always maintained like this mentality that if you want to fuck with me, like, you can fuck with me all you want. Like, fuck with me. Like, however you want to fuck with me, like physically, emotionally, like, you know, with words, whatever. The moment you get involved with people that I fucking care, I will fucking end you. I will goddamn fucking end you. And I'm not afraid of the fucking law. I'm not afraid of consequence. I will fucking end you. The moment you get involved with people I care about.
The only thing
that's just how I've always been. I've always fucking been that way. And like when it comes to like what Mystic is talking, I'm sorry to cut you off, Mystic, but I got to say it before I forget it because I have been drinking.
Me too. Go ahead.
So, but you know, like when it comes to like kind of like apocalypse kind of like fucking mentality, right? Like I think about my kid, right? I want to make sure he's okay. I want to make sure the people I love and I care about are okay. Like if something ever happens. So I want to make sure that they have everything they need, which is why there's cash and there's fucking precious metals. Why? Because I know cash will lose its value, right? If what shit really fucking goes down, cash isn't going to mean shit. But gold, silver, shit like that, that's still going to have fucking value to certain people. Probably people that mean something. And same thing with MREs. Like I got MREs, I got fucking, you know, all that shit. Like shit that's not going to expire, at least for like a long time.
We should have a show where I show you my bug out bag, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
We should compare. We should compare is what we should do.
Oh, bring out my bag. Hey, look.
Not right now. So the idea is I'm willing to die for the people I care about, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't care whether or not I die, because the thing is, if I die, I can't take care of the people I care about.
But you can. For me, it's like, and this is weird, and I think this is where the nursing thing came for me, like why that's such the right place for me. It's like I look at life in general, or capability in terms of impact. Like that's my big message at work with my team at work. I always talk about what's your impact. The bigger your impact, the more value you have over a shorter period of time, right? Because that's what impact is. It's value over a short period of time. And so for me, if I can have a very large impact right now and that changes things, but I am not here to see the rest of it, I'm fine with that because I'm going to die anyway. It's going to happen. It's not like I'm going to delay it and I don't have any choice over that. I could make no impact and die tomorrow drowning in a river, or I can make a big impact and die tomorrow drowning in a river. So I'm going to make the biggest impact I can with the information and the things that I have right now to do it, and kind of process that. But it's it comes down to like my brain works upon this whole theory of I would die for the people. I am a ride or die at. That's just how I am. I always have been. Those that are close. I'm like my best friend Allison that I never talk to, but every 6 months, if she called me right now and says, "Hey, I'm having a really hard day," she's 4 hours away. My ass is getting in the car and driving. I don't care. It's just happening because that's how we've been together 20 some years, and she gets on every fucking nerve that I have, but I would still do that. But everybody else in the world are just the same people that I don't have that relationship with yet. So I can't discount somebody who's also trying to fight for their family where I might be the losing end of it. And it's almost like it's not like a lot of people see that as a weakness in me, I think, and in some ways, but to me it's a personal strength, I feel like. Because whatever those individuals are, whatever those people are that are in the world that are available, and I don't have that relationship with them. They have kids. That doesn't mean that I'm any better than them or that they're any better than me or I shouldn't be the same way with them. Like, and that's going to be the end of me and the end of the world situation, right? I am going to let everybody in and I am going to lose. That's just what's going to happen.
I think that's an interesting, very non-left-hand path perspective. It's in a way because that kind of universalist sort of thinking, though, I think speaks to your dedication to like something akin to the Hippocratic Oath. I'm sure, in that help anyone, who kind of needs help sort of mentality, and in a way, I think that's a loyalty and honor to that tribal association with caretakers and care workers and EMTs, doctors, all that kind of like way of thinking.
I think that's where it came from.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all about where we put our boundaries, So in a lot of ways, like that seems very universalist and egalitarian and very anti-left-hand path, but I think it's in a certain way you could view it as just a changing of where the borders are, because your borders are that you've taken an oath and you've tied your honor to helping anybody that's in need, which is certainly something amicable, like. That's awesome. There was another story, though, that I wanted to, and forgive me because I talk about this one all the time. It's a pretty monumental one in my life. I don't know if I talked about this last time, but when Malice was kind of talking about not wanting to die because you have people that you care for and stuff like that, and it reminds me of a story that when I was 22 years old, and I touched on it earlier, I had been living in Brooklyn at the time. A really, really terrible neighborhood. There was a shooting right outside of my apartment, and they had erected what I used to call the Pig Tower when I lived there, which was this big 2-story tall trailer that had a surveillance tower on it that the police would sit in, and they would surveil the neighborhood from this tower in the middle of my street, right outside of where a cop had gotten shot. And I used to walk around this neighborhood all the time, like late at night and stuff and everything else, and I lived right across the street from two of the most notorious projects, like the Marcy and Tompkins projects in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And people from out where I used to live used to warn me all the time, like, hey, man, be careful out there. Be careful out there. Don't get in trouble. Like, keep your head about yourself. Like, don't get caught, out too late by yourself or anything like that. And I never really had an issue, and I never heeded it too much. I used to just walk around the city, bad neighborhoods all the time at night. I came back out to the suburbs to visit for a weekend, and I met up with a friend, and we were kind of skateboarding in a parking lot late at night. And it was about midnight, elementary school parking lot in what would be called a nice neighborhood, or a decent neighborhood. And somebody appeared with a gun, put it to my neck, and basically was trying to rob me. And I got in an argument with this guy. I basically just started calling him a clown, started calling him a pussy, telling him if he put the gun down, and then we fought a fist fight and he won, I'd take him to the ATM and give him every single dime that was in it. This and that. I didn't have much cash on me. It turned into me like talking to this guy for like 10 minutes. He hit me in the neck. I was laughing. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience, though. I felt like I was 10 feet behind myself watching this situation happen. But I was saying crazy shit. My friend hit the floor, and he was just like, dude, what the fuck? After everything was said and done, he was like, what the fuck got into you, dude? Like, you were fucking acting crazy. That was nuts. Talking back to the guy, calling him a pussy, saying all this other shit. And I kind of had to think, like, what was that came out of me like that? Because you don't know what you're going to do in a situation like that until it happens. And I was surprised at how I acted. Like, I didn't know why that came out in that way. And then I kind of had to sit there and think about, like, why did I react like that? And dig through that. Because it scared me, you know? Like, I'm not trying to sound like a badass or something like that. Like, I was like, why was I so willing to allow that to be my last night on the earth? I was so willing to just go at that point. And for me, I'm not hearing your sound.
Yeah, me either.
Let me give you two similar examples when you're done. When you're finished, let me give you two similar examples.
But I wanted to say a couple years later, I want to say 4 or 5 years later, I was reading a book about Zen and Bushido with the kind of samurai. And I remember coming across this chapter where they talked about how samurais would meditate upon death and make them not afraid of it. And they basically talked about that for human beings, there are 3 levels to our relationships with death. And as you go through the levels, fewer and fewer people ever reach this level. Most people will never get past the first level. The first level is fear of death because, like H.P. Lovecraft said, the greatest fear of mankind is the fear of the unknown. So people just fear death because they don't want to die for purely selfish reasons and purely because they fear what they don't know. The second stage is the purely nihilistic, where basically you don't care if you live or die because you don't see any particular reason in living. People die all the fucking time. Why not it be today? You know, whatever, that kind of perspective. When I read that, I realized at that moment in time, I was in that second category. I did not have a reason to live at that particular time in my life. So that time or in the future, it didn't really matter to me. As far as I was concerned, I didn't really have a good reason for being here. And it wasn't until I kind of started to digest that I realized that was the head space I was in. And that's why I was talking like that and why I was totally fine with whatever outcome came. If that guy pulled that trigger, bullet went through my head and I was done, that was fine by me in that very moment. Later on, step 3 that they talk about is that you no longer fear death, but you avoid it because you have a higher surface to serve. You have something that keeps you here alive, not out of selfish reasons and not out of fear, because you know that you have work to do. And for me, by the time that I was actually reading this, I was either about getting there or finding my way to get there to finally have a reason to live. So yeah, if a guy comes out of the bushes when I go to leave here tonight, going to get on my motorcycle and sticks a gun to my neck, I am definitely going to react in a different situation. And the funny thing is I am much more well-armed than I was in that situation. And I have learned a lot more martial arts since then. But I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to act very different than I did at 22 years old in that situation because I have a lot of things in my life, a lot of higher purposes and a lot of things that I feel like I am in great service to. And I'm not looking to make my exit anytime soon because I've got a lot of fucking work to do.
Exactly. So the two situations I want to kind of apply to this, right? So it's 2 totally different reactions that I had. Similar situation, 2 totally different reactions. So, one second. Oh boy.
You all right?
Yeah, no, hold on. I'm just getting some fucking messages. Hold on a second. All right. So the first time something like that happened to me, I remember the situation like it was yesterday. So I used to like travel around the city doing like individual lessons because I live in Guadalajara, Mexico, right? So like I used to travel around the city doing like individual lessons with students, right? So I had a lesson that I was doing with the son of a nutritionist, right? So they wanted him to learn English, and I was on the bus, so I traveled by bus, right? And me, like I try to look not like the way I look right now, you know, suit jacket, button-down shirt, you know, presentable. Like I'm doing decently fine with myself. And I happened to notice on the way there that there's a guy on the bus who's kind of like checking me out, right? Like he was kind of like almost got off the bus a couple of times, came back on, stayed on, kept like eyeballing me. And then I noticed like when I got off the bus, and like, so the way that I am because of the trauma and shit that I've gone to, I'm very like hyper alert of my surroundings. I'm always looking over my fucking shoulder. I'm never like I never shut down to the point where I'm not paying attention. And I noticed that after 3 stops, that guy almost getting off and getting back on and getting off and getting back on, that when I got off, he got off. Like, all right. I immediately went in my head. I'm like, all right, something's going down. Something's going to happen. Don't know what, something's going to happen. So I normally had my backpack with one hand, right, like this. Like instead of like on my back like this, so I had it with one hand. And I grabbed it really fucking tight because I knew something was going to happen. And the next thing I knew, I heard fucking, like, you know when somebody's running on pavement, like you hear that, like that?
Yep.
Like that's exactly what I heard. And I grabbed as tight as I possibly fucking could with my hand. It's this one over here. I grabbed him like as tight as I fucking could over here. And fucking pulled the fucking backpack and tried to pull it off of me. And I used the backpack as leverage, pulled him towards me, punched him in the fucking face. He tried to pull the backpack again, pulled him towards me, punched him in the fucking face. That happened like 3 fucking times before he let go and he fucking took off. And that was it. That was the end of it. Right? So, like, there's nothing in the backpack. There were English books in the backpack. There's no laptop, nothing of value.
Doesn't matter what's in it, right?
Yeah, right? So, you know, but that was my reaction. Now, go back 2 weeks. Me and my son, sometimes we'd go for a walk around the block, right? Here in the area where we live. And we're walking around and shit like that. And I asked him, like, we reached a corner, particular corner. We normally go right? And I asked him, well, where do you want to go? Do you want to go left or do you want to go right? So you go up the block, 3 blocks, go around 3 blocks and come back down. We're back at the house. He said, well, I want to go up this time. All right, cool. We'll go up. And what I didn't realize, what I didn't take into consideration, and I do blame myself for this because I know the area and I know certain things to watch out for, and I should have been conscious of this and I wasn't at the time, is that like when you reach towards railroad tracks here in Mexico, the railroad tracks are never a safe place to be. Never. And 3 blocks up from where I'm at are railroad tracks. Because with the railroad tracks, you get people from Guatemala, Venezuela, like all these places like coming up through, trying to get to the States. Because these railroad tracks go directly all the way up through. If you follow them right up through, they go right up to the border. And I should have been conscious of that, and I wasn't. And what happened was we went up, walked around, and I wasn't paying attention. I was talking to my kid. I was just talking to my kid. How was your day? You know, how was Fortnite? Have you met any new friends? You know, stuff like that. And I noticed, like it clicked in my head, somebody very quickly walked past me and my kid. And the moment that person walked past, like when my brain had the opportunity to register that person was walking past my kid, somebody else came up behind me and grabbed my arms like this. And then the person who walked past flipped around, turned around, and started going through my fucking pockets. And before he did that, he kind of lifted up his shirt like this. And was like, see the fucking butt of a revolver. Now, chances are, the way Mexico is, it probably wasn't loaded, but with my kid, I wasn't ready to take that risk. Right? I'm not going to take that risk with my kid. So, like, this dude's got me like this. My arms are back behind my back. The other guy's going through my fucking pockets. My kid's fucking screaming and crying and shit. The only thing I'm doing is trying to calm him down.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm fucking trying to do is like, shh. Don't make a sound. Right? It's gonna be okay. Don't cry. It's gonna be okay. Even though I know it's in his right to cry, in that moment, don't cry, because anything like crying like that can be an irritation. It can cause like anything. Don't cry. It's gonna be okay. Daddy's right here. Daddy's right here.
Good on you.
Daddy's here. It's okay. And so they're going through my pockets. They grab my wallet. They grab my phone. Right? They check my kid. Dude, my fucking blood pressure went up through the moment they started touching my kid, dude. I was like fucking like, and I just like, don't fucking do it. Don't fucking do it. And dude, like the whole rest of that fucking day was like fucking like a fucking blimp, man. Like at that point I was only fucking reacting. That was the only fucking thing I was doing. Like literally, like I was like 3 blocks away from my house. They let me go. They hit me in the fucking back of the head with the butt of a fucking gun. I know it was fucking butt of the gun. They hit me like right about here. I had a fucking ball in the back of my head for like a week. You know, even though like I let them fucking take fucking everything. And I was like, all right, didn't have my phone, didn't have my keys. They took my fucking keys. I couldn't get in the fucking house. Went to the neighbors across the street. I was like, hey, you know, somebody just fucking robbed us. Can you let me use your phone? I need to get, you know, a locksmith to open up the lock and shit like that. And the locksmith comes, and so they let me use the phone. I call on the phone. The locksmith comes. He opens up the fucking door, and then I'm sitting there thinking about, I was like, you know what? Change the lock, because now they got my keys, right?
Yeah.
And like everything is just like firing off like this. Like, it's like I'm thinking of this one thing, and I'm thinking of this, and I'm thinking of this one thing, and I'm thinking of this, and it's just like, I don't like feeling like that. Like, I don't like feeling like I'm trying to like hold everything together by fucking threads, right? You know, my kid's fucking freaking out. You know, I managed to calm him down with a little bit of ice cream and shit. You know, it's like, it's okay. Daddy's here. We're safe. It's okay. You know, and like him, being him, he should, like, his whole, cause is, why would they do that? Like, that's literally what he's asking. Why did they do that? Like, why? And the thing is, I can't give him an answer. Like, I can't tell him why somebody would do that. But I know that me walking with my kid makes me an easy target. Because they know that I'm not going to fucking fight back. Because my kid's there. And that shit pisses me off. Like, that makes me want to fight back, but I don't.
The weakest kind of person.
Yep.
You know, because, like, my fucking kid's there. Like, it's like,
Dude,
you're going to fucking...
Sounds like you did a heroic amount of like keeping it cool, dude, and like fucking doing right by your son in that situation, which I think is super commendable, man. That is a fucking really intense situation. That is fucking awesome.
Dude, like, my head, the only thing I think of is like, come at me without my kid, motherfucker. Come at me without my fucking kid.
Well, let me tell you what that looks like. Like, I cannot. I feel the same way. I can't imagine what you would go through to have your child with you going through that situation. I mean, I've been held up at gunpoint before, present with somebody that I love, but not my kid. I don't have a kid. And interestingly, if you can picture a gay guy outside of a gay bar chasing somebody who robbed him at gunpoint in a Miata, I'm just saying, it's what it was. It is what it was. So I think that's funny. But I can't imagine what I would do if it would have been somebody well, that was going to sound really bad. Somebody that I cared about. I cared about him. I swear I did. But you know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine if it was like my mom or my sister or my family or my son or my kid. I just can't imagine what that would feel like to have that extra layer on it. That was bad enough as it was.
That's the thing, though.
To take that onto
my
it.
Kid there, with Ian there, like, it changed like my whole mental perspective. Like, after the fact, like, my mind started processing everything and what I could have done and what I didn't do and why I didn't do it.
Sounds to me like you nailed it, dude. I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You did the right thing.
That's the only option.
Well, it was, because the thing was, the only thing I could think of at that point is if I tried to get physical,
your son would have been screwed.
Yeah, they're not going to come after me. I'm not going to be the target. They're going to go after what I know and what they know.
After the easy target, what hurts you.
Exactly. And so, like, it was fucked up because I got the door opened. They changed the locks and shit. Then I went back to the fucking neighbors. I asked them to order me an Uber. Right, I gave them some cash. They're like, cool. Me and my son went to the mall. My son's completely confused. He's like, you could see it in his face. He's like, we just got robbed, Dad. Why are we going to the mall? And like, I literally just picked up a fucking bullshit fucking phone, like a bullshit Motorola, because I was like, the only thing in my head at that point was like, I can't be without a phone. Like, I can't not have a phone. I need to have a phone. And like, my brain was trying to like, I don't know, like fucking regularize the situation. You know, so in connection to what you were talking about, I had 2 totally different reactions to a similar situation, but with different circumstances.
Yeah.
When it was just me, the way that I feel, if you're going to try to steal from me, you better fucking kill me. Because I've busted my ass for the shit that I have. Like, people, like, when I post, like, pictures of my setup and shit, they're like, oh, dude, that's fucking awesome. Like, yeah, it took me fucking 5 to 6 years to get to this point. There's a lot of fucking work that went into this. It wasn't like one day to the next. I didn't just fucking drop money and say, yeah, I've got 4 fucking monitors and a fucking baller system. Fuck, my goddamn graphics card, Mystic gifted to me. Okay? You know, so, like, I bust my ass for the shit that I have. But there's that, like what Mystic said, that layer. It changes things. Like when there's an innocent life involved. And, like, the part that kills me the most is seeing his face. The fear in his face. Because my son looks at me like fucking Superman. Like, my son looks at me like the guy that could fucking take on the goddamn world and then fucking beat it. And for my son to be in a situation to see me like that, for him to feel that fear that dad can't protect me. Dude, that is what fucks with me on a level that you cannot begin to fucking believe.
But dude, you did protect him because you got him out of that situation. You know, and both of you are alive today. And then you handled the situation with a cool head. Fucking huge, dude. You know? That's huge.
I did the best I could. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
I don't give myself credit either way. I just did what I could.
But dude, that's huge for him, man. Because growing up, when he gets in high stress situations, stuff like that, that leaves an imprint. Like, he's gonna think about that, and that's gonna influence the way that he handles high stress situations.
That's what I'm hoping.
He processes things and that sort of stuff. And he's not going to sit there and cry about it. He's going to turn around and be like, all right, when something bad happens, he's going to turn around and say, all right, what are the essential things I need to do now? Like you did. You went to the fucking mall. He thought that was weird, but you need a phone. You need this. You need to call the locksmith, change the locks. Like, you're immediately thinking of like, well, how do we move forward from this and do the things that we have to do? That's huge, man. Like, you know, not for nothing. Like, I wish I had a lot of that shit growing up. And a lot of things for me were going through and figuring out a lot of that stuff into my 20s, right. You know, realizing that, like, I never had those kind of positive role models to tell me, like, hey, when your life falls apart, this is what you got to do. Or when something bad happens to you, this is what you got to do. You got to first take care of A, B, and C, you know?
No, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate it because, I mean, like, because that was just like 2-3 weeks ago. Like, that's that wasn't that long ago.
It's fucking insane.
You know, and it's just like, for me, it's just like, it pisses me off because, I don't know, it's going to sound stupid. Like, I got, like, in my head, the way that I grew up, I got, like, fucking Walker, Texas Ranger fucking stuck in my goddamn head, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? You know, fucking Chuck Norris fucking kicking ass, you know, fucking, but the thing was, it's like, logically, in the moment, I was like, I'm not going to risk my kid's life. I'm not going to try to be a fucking hero and then my kid fucking dies in the situation, you know, because, you know, I know that I can kick these guys' asses. Like, look, I'm not a martial arts expert by any means. I'm not. Like, with anything in my life, I'm a Gemini, man. Like, I'm a fucking jack of all trades. I'm not a master of fucking anything. But, you know, I've got, you know, ninjutsu, jiu-jitsu, aikido, taekwondo, muay thai. You know, I've got, like, you know, a couple of years here, 3 years there, 4 years here, you know, of each one of those. So I know I can defend myself. But, like, when my kid involved, whole other fucking level, man. It's my kid. Like, that's, like, when I'm not here, like, he needs to be here when I'm not here. Like, I'm not burying my kid, man. I'm not. I refuse to do it. I'm not. I swear to God, if anything ever happens to my kid, dude, I'm gonna fucking shut. I will shut the fuck down. Like, anything else can happen. Relationships, they can end. They can go. Like, that's normal. Careers, they can end. They can go. That's normal. Dude, anything happens to my fucking kid.
Dude, like I was saying, man, I'm sure on a instinctual level, your son knows that, and that's going to rub off on him that, like, hey, listen, as long as you have your family, the people close to you, the rest of the shit is all fucking inconsequential. Doesn't matter all that much. You know, like, even if you never say that outright to him, the fact that you carry that as such a core value, that's going to rub off on him. And he's going to have a coolness about the way that he goes about life. He doesn't sweat the little shit, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. No, and the point was to bringing this up was what in reference to what you talked about, like when you got robbed at gunpoint, shit like that, is that depending on the circumstances of where your mind is at, it changes how you react. Right, like the person that tried to steal my bag, which was just like what they considered like a sneak attack, right? They, as far as I'm aware, they didn't have a weapon, and it got physical, and I ended up winning the situation. They ended up running away, and you know, obviously, I felt good about myself after the fact. As is human psychology, right? You know, like I fucking defended myself. I protected, you know, what I've worked for. You know, so instinctually I felt good about myself. But then, like, you add my child into the mix, and, like, it was weird because, like, the only thing I could, like, one of the things, not the only thing, but one of the things I kept thinking about was kind of like this idea in society, how we keep showing the good guy as, like, having weakness when it comes to having children or people that they care about. Right? You notice that, right? In comic book culture, in superhero culture, like, that's... In societal culture, that's the big thing, is that they constantly show, at least initially, that having love and caring for another person and their well-being is a weakness to the outcome, right? Like, that's initially what society shows.
But it gives you the motivation.
Exactly. The motivation to continue despite the circumstances is because of that caring, because of that love, right? So... It kind of creates kind of like a philosophical dilemma where it's like, okay, what's the correct way to go about it then? Like, should it be fuck all in the moment and do whatever you can to end the situation physically and come out on top? Or should you give in? Like, does giving, because that's where the toxic masculinity comes in. Like, I'm with Mystic. I don't necessarily agree with, like, toxic masculinity per se. I think being masculine is a positive thing. I do. I think masculinity is something that men need. We need to be able to be masculine. But is there, like, when it comes to situations like that, like, are we sacrificing our masculinity? Like, being masculine? Like, society's interpretation and what they show is very skewed, and I think is very dangerous.
What's more masculine than some of the greatest military strategists of all time? And I mean, they never think about it as winning the battle. They're concerned with the war.
Well,
I think you're getting too caught up in the battle.
I would even take it further. I would take it further as far as, like, let's not call it masculine, because if you accept or propose masculine, then you accept or propose feminine. And if you're looking at those two polarities, you're looking at active versus passive, you know, insertion versus reception. And those things really are man-made ideals, right? The truth of the matter is these are all human behaviors of protection, and those are both masculine and feminine. You protect those you love, you protect those that you are in control of, right? You protect those that are in your charge as a nurse, but you also protect those as how they feel. So those things aren't necessarily masculine or feminine. They're human ideals to protect and save and safe and secure. So to me, it's a lot more important to differentiate between whether or not I'm doing something from a masculine or feminine or whatever standpoint, versus doing what's the right thing for the right person, for the people that I care about as a human being. And when you take that masculine versus feminine piece out of it, it makes a lot more sense. Because then there's no longer a polarity of masculine, feminine, sinister, magister, bad, good, left hand, right hand. It becomes a continuum of things that just have to be balanced on the teeter-totter of whatever it is that you are, versus you have to have an exact and equal opposite for each thing that exists. And so it becomes emotional strength is strength, but emotional weakness is weakness, and physical strength is strength, and physical strength is weakness. There's no difference between those at all. And physical doesn't mean masculine, emotional isn't feminine. those are just two things that are on the continuum. They're both masculine and feminine in their ways, because when you look at them on the same continuum, well, what are you doing? You're not protecting your son because you're masculine. You're protecting him because he's somebody you care about. That's a feminine trait, judging by what we say, things that are masculine and feminine, right? So it doesn't matter. It's not about it's not about masculine or feminine. It's about being a fucking human being and caring about the people that are in your group.
I agree with you to a point. I do believe, like, because part of me is Norse pagan, like, and then look, I need to say this for clarification for the podcast. I'm not saying that all Norse pagans think this way. Like, I mean, I'm left-hand path, but like, I'm left-hand path and Norse pagan at the same time. And if people disagree with me in the chat, or anybody disagrees with me listening to this, I really don't give a fuck. I'm Norse pagan and I'm left-hand path. Deal with it. I feel that there's a part there. Maybe it's just traditionalism, but that the protective nature. Like, I'm not saying that feminine energy or females are not protective of their young. We have seen, evidence.
They're more protective.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen evidence to the contrary, that, like, a woman being able to lift up a fucking car to protect their kid. Right? We've seen that on video.
Did you read the story about that shit that just happened in Texas with that one woman who drove 40-something miles?
I'm familiar with the story in general, but the details, no.
Dude, you got to look it up. It's fucking incredible. So, sorry to cut you off, but I'll just real quick give it to you.
Go for it.
Apparently, with what happened with that shooter situation in Texas, this woman saw it on the news that it was happening. Her kids go to that school. She got in her car, drove over 40 miles, got there, saw the police were doing nothing. So she essentially went to go run into the building, was stopped by the police. They put her in handcuffs and told her that they were going to charge her with basically, like, trying to interrupt an active investigation. So she knew somebody on the police force who then talked to the marshal and got them to take the cuffs off. She then snuck away from the crowd, went around through the woods, hopped the fence, went into the building, found her two kids, brought them back out, and ran through the woods with her two kids and saved them.
Is that masculine or feminine?
That's fucking love, man.
Exactly. That's the point. It doesn't fucking matter. There's no such thing as masculine and feminine. It's fucking human
love.
Or not. Yep.
Yeah, man. That's fucking love for your fucking creation, dude. Like, that's just. I think that's like the most I think that is like the most magical shit in the planet. Like, shit like that.
Well, that's
manifesting that energy inside of you to say, if I get fucking shot, man, I don't fucking care. I'm getting the fucking kids out.
Failure of masculinity as well, because the entire police force, who basically did fucking nothing to defend
the paternal order,
incompetency, complete incompetence.
I just am saying, like, for the next, like, I don't know, year, we need to commit to making that the story of that. That's what you do. It doesn't matter if it's masculine or feminine. It doesn't matter if it's traditional, because all of those things are categorized based on human beings who are already screwed up to begin with, categorizing things to make them easier, which don't even make sense. Like, the categories we choose are really dumb. And I don't even want to go into the George Carlin explanation of why women are stronger than men, because they are. I mean, that's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't matter. That is the kind of stuff that really makes, to me, that's what makes, and it's not about the strength. It's not about the determination, all of the things that you can say to describe that. It is about, at that moment, that individual had this otherworldly, alien, completely non-rational response to nothing else matters. This is my path. This is where I'm going, and she's stuck to that. And that's what all humans are capable of, depending on where they're at in their in their path. And that's part of why I kind of go along the line of, with nursing and with the, my healthcare worker process, is not everybody's at that level, but you can't judge them for not being at that level either. So it's all about managing how that perspective is seen and how that perspective is utilized in what they do. And for somebody that isn't capable of doing that, so you put another mother right next to her, and that other mother says she didn't drive the 40 miles, she didn't challenge the police department. Does that make her less of a mother? Does that make her less of a person? Absolutely not, right? And so those are the considerations that we have to be aware of all the time as we are working through our own shadows and our own traumas and our own processes, that we're not judging or projecting onto those other individuals that that's what's happening. Just because we are where we are doesn't mean they are where they are, right? If that makes any sense.
Right. No, it does, definitely.
That's a beautiful story. We need to share that like 1,000 times forever.
I agree. Like I don't think it's a question of masculine or feminine. I mean, I do think that the protective nature naturally comes out, like generally speaking, naturally is presented through masculine energy. Like I think, like I'm looking at fucking BikerWitch right now, right? And like, I mean, I've only talked to him really like, in interviews and shit like that. We haven't really talked outside, of interviews and videos, but I'm looking at him and I could tell you that he's the type of person that he will fucking die to protect people he fucking cares about. He will fucking go fucking full on fucking berserk fucking mode, protect people he fucking cares about. I just by looking at him, I can tell it. I can see it. I can see it in the energy he gives off and the fucking type of person he is, the way that he talks, like everything. Like he's that type of person that like if somebody threatens people he cares about, he will fucking sacrifice himself to make sure that the people he loves and cares about are safe. Like I can just see it.
I appreciate that, man. That's again another thing that I'm glad the message comes across.
Oh yeah, exactly. It does.
As a fellow Gemini, communication is important,
Oh, you're a Gemini as well.
Dude, I'm always outnumbered. What the hell is this shit?
Both beautiful signs as well, I'm a Gemini sun, Virgo moon, so.
See, at least he knows the details. I don't know the fucking details of my shit.
Virgo sun, Virgo moon, and Taurus rising. You can't get more Earth than this.
Jeez, yeah, I'm Gemini, Virgo, Gemini.
Oh,
I was born June 6, 1986 at fucking like.
Dude, I need to do your natal chart. I can do that,
Yeah, you should, man.
Yeah, I have the whole program.
Like, I don't know my shit, man. I don't know. All I know is I'm a Gemini because it was June 6th, and I love my birthday, June 6, 1986, 666.
You need to message me what time you were born and what city.
I just told you, 1 o'clock. I was born at like 1:23 in the morning is when I was born on June 6th.
What'd you say, Ruff?
So,
I mean, you can make me another drink if you want.
But Biker, man, like I really like this conversation. I think I will go as far as saying that I think that this conversation is better than our first conversation.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
I mean, our first conversation was good, man, but like, yeah. I think with this one, like, we're hitting like more personal notes, like we're being more realistic and shit. Like
I just need to make my way to his tattoo shop because I have a building in Newark, New Jersey. So I'll be up in New York, and my best consultant lives in Staten Island. I'm there all the time.
Biker,
I gotta make my way around.
My knuckles. I want you to do my knuckles, man.
Dude,
I'm gonna get mine finished.
Let's do it.
Like, no, I saw Biker's knuckles in a post. Like, I guess somebody else did it for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I asked, like, hey, it's like, is that freehand or like? He's like, yeah, it's freehand. Like, dude, that looks fucking sick. And it's like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, one of two things. I either want my palms done. Like, what I want to do is like, I want to do eyes on my palms.
It's miserable, dude. I've done it only a couple times on like clients that I thought were tough as nails, and they fucking crumbled. Like almost immediately. It's one of the worst places on your entire body, and most of it falls out.
Like, I mean, I would assume that like this part's super sensitive.
It is, dude. And if you want it to stay, you oftentimes got to redo them several times. I got one client.
Like the back of the hand better?
Back of the hand is great. Yeah, no, the back of the hand's actually good skin.
Yeah, job stopper. That's what I'm doing next. But I want to make it like work together. Like I don't know how to like. Yeah.
I just did my girlfriend's throat the other day. She handled that pretty well.
That could be taken more than one way, but yes, I'm glad.
So you're in Jersey, right?
I'm in New York.
New York.
New York. New York, New York. Long. Okay.
No,
all right.
I'm about 50 miles east of New York City.
All right. Look, check it out. So I need to go to fucking upstate sometime soon because I need to check property fucking shit, like dealing with my mom and shit like that. But like sometime this year, like probably closer to the end of the year, probably we're talking like October, November. I'm gonna be in upstate.
You have to coordinate that with me. I can make
your
a
ass upstate if I made it worth your while.
Oh, dude, I got a car, man. I could drive up that way.
If we coordinate it right, I can come pick your ass up and we can make it work. Because I can coordinate a New York trip.
Dude, that'd be awesome, and I don't mind.
All right, let me know, man. Let me know, like Mystic. Let me know because like the three of us can like fucking coordinate. So, dude, I want to get work.
Yeah, I don't have to pay for any of this shit. My job pays for all of it. So.
Fuck yeah, dude! I would love to meet up with you guys. That would be great.
Yeah, man. Like, do like a fucking tattoo party or some shit, man. Like,
oh yeah. I might bring my sister. She's completely covered, so she's got just like a little bit of space left. She's trying to figure it out.
I'm pretty mobile too. I mean, like all my equipment and shit, I could pack it up in a backpack in like 20 minutes and hop.
Dude, fuck yeah. Dude, yeah, we'll let you know. We'll coordinate. I'll talk to Mystic and shit. We'll get it done this year. Like this year, we'll get it fucking done.
My tattoo machine. It's like this little fucking wireless thing right here. I put a little needle cartridge in the front and ready to go. So.
Dude,
there you go, man.
That might be too soon, but the week of my birthday, I've taken off and I have no plans. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and I've got
When's
to finish
your birthday
this
again?
arm.
Fuck yeah.
When's your birthday again?
August 29. Same as Michael Jackson.
August. I might be able to make that work. Like, I don't know if that's too soon for Biker, but Biker, we'll have to run it by you and,
just keep me posted, absolutely.
Like, I will be proud to say, like all the work I have, I know the artists personally that have done my work. Like, and they're different artists, right? So this one right here, the ones on my legs, like I sat there and I talked to them for like an hour and a half in their shop before I decided to get work from them.
Dude, all of my work, except for like one thing, is the same guy.
So I can tell you,
in Naples, Florida. All the same guy.
This local, underline tattoo, right? Jose, right, is the name of the artist that did the fucking Giant the Homicidal Maniac, right? Yeah, underline tattoo here locally. Cool. This one right here, Cancun, right? Right there. That was done in Cancun. Carlos, he was the one that did it. This one right here, T-Pex, the only dude in all of fucking Mexico that is registered with fucking Tribal, like from out of Los Angeles, did this right here. And he did it fucking high. Like the motherfucker was hitting fucking a 2-foot fucking bong the whole time he was doing it. All right. The ones on my legs, this one over here, the Slipknot one. This is my kid over here. The one over here was Puerto Vallarta. That was one, right? So it's just like a small little fucking corner shop on the beach that I found that did tattoo. I wanted a Slipknot for the Slipknot fucking logo. He did it on the side of my calf, right there. The one on the back of my calf, that was Enrique, right? That was in Mexico City, right? I fell asleep for that fucking tattoo. Like, I didn't feel shit. Like, people that say that tattoos, like, all tattoos hurt. It's bullshit. Motherfucker, I fell the fuck asleep when they did the back of my calf.
Dude,
like, I put my headphones in, I passed out. Motherfucker hit me on my fucking side. He's like, I'm done.
Better you than me, man. Hated both of them.
My calf hurt, but only because of the position I had to hold for too long to do it. And I still haven't finished it all because I have a DNA strand that wraps around my leg on my right calf. And the next part for my guy to do is kind of like adding the different parts that make me up, like my German ancestry. We have our coat of arms and all that shit. So I'm getting all that put on. But I can't wait to get all my shit finished. Like, I've got so many more. Like, I'm trying to catch up with my sister. Her entire body's covered. So
did I show you guys the tattoo that I have that got kicked off TikTok like several times?
I don't think I've seen it.
It's my most like offensive tattoo. Let me see if I can get it out.
That's like the best. That's the best kind.
Give me 1 second.
And he leaves, so
I guess you'll just get to see it, Mystic.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Oh, there he's back.
Let me see
it's just like My ex brother-in-law is coming to pick up my kid, so
Yes,
because it's
get
his
my-
grandfather's birthday. The fuck
Yeah,
is
that's
that?
different. That's
What is
different.
that? Looks like a
Yeah.
pregnant woman's spike or some shit.
No, it's a pregnant lady with a noose around her belly.
Oh.
Okay, I get it.
All right, rock on, rock on.
Right.
Got a strike
I'm
from
there for
TikTok
it.
for that one.
I bet.
Aceptas?
This was
Okay,
my
let me
first
see.
one, but it's all like falling together now.
What is it?
So it's when I got my first nursing license when I was an LPN, and it's a syringe down the middle with wings, gargoyle wings,
Okay, so
All
it's
right, all
almost
right.
like
We're all showing off our calves. All right, I'm gonna try to show off mine.
and then this one.
There's-
Hold on, I'm
there's
not
the
done yet,
Slipknot
bitch. Then this one.
right on, and then
Oh god, it's an upside down gargoyle.
oh fuck.
Oh, there you go. And then I've got on the back
That's
of
like
this one.
over.
Oh, hold on a second. See if I can.
I'm
show
too
this
fat
one.
for this shit.
So up here on this one,
All
there
right.
is like a pentagram, and then kind of like the, if you remember Godsmack, the sun logo that they had.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it's like the Godsmack sun with a pentagram in the middle of it.
It's that one.
I can't fucking. Jesus
Oh,
Christ,
cool.
you're fucking flexible. Holy shit.
I'm actually waiting to go in for knee surgery, so I can't do that shit at all.
Behemoth X, welcome. So when we talk
Say,
left-hand path,
This
Hold
is
on a
my
second.
favorite.
let me give the shout
It's
out
hard
here.
to
So-
see, but it's the Green Man.
Oh fuck yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a big one. So when it comes to left-hand path, when it comes to, like, in my personal opinion, people that on YouTube do ritual the way that I feel that ritual should be done, Behemoth X, 100%. Like,
Okay.
his videos, sadly, are few and far between because he spends a lot of time on them. But
Oh no, I do know this dude. Okay, yeah. I think I followed
Yeah.
him a lot. Yeah.
the
It's coming
quality
back-
of his videos are fucking other fucking level, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking
Other
about.
fucking
Yep,
level.
beautiful stuff.
So, if you guys aren't following Behemoth, fucking follow him. Do it. I got the
I'm busy
hiccups,
now.
just ignore me.
And then I got those two.
Mystic, Malice, I'll be back in 1 second.
All right.
I feel like I've done my calisthenics for the day.
Yeah, right? I didn't know you were that fucking flexible, man. Your fucking legs up in the fucking air and shit.
Oh, I have tricks, man. I have tricks. Be prepared.
Behemoth,
I do
I'm gonna
really
bug
get
you
this
again.
done,
Let
though.
me
Like,
interview you, please. Give
Or-
us the exclusive. Let's have a
or let's-
conversation, Behemoth.
let's not interview Behemoth and just like have him on to chit chat and shit.
That too. Like, we just have him to fucking talk about his tattoos, talk about his music, like his love for music and shit. Behemoth, I'm dying to have you on, Behemoth. I'm dying to have you on. Let me know.
I'm back.
Welcome back. But yeah, but while you were gone, we were begging Behemoth to let us. Yeah, man, Behemoth. If you want to talk about love and life, man, we'll talk about love and life. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Just like
Love and
get
life
on the
is what
show,
it's
man.
all about, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I would definitely watch that episode for sure. I would love to watch that.
Dude, I have been trying to get him on the fucking show for like a fucking year, man. He's a regular viewer. He's here like almost every episode. I have been trying to get him on the show for like a year.
So here's the
Like-
thing. Regardless of like everything that's happening in the world, right? The more and more we have conversations and we talk about the things that make us who we are and what we do and how we do it. Not only do we
You guys
get more
keep talking.
people
I can
on
hear you. I'll be right back.
board, not that we're like trying to get people on board for whatever reason, but just the more the conversation is open and has these parts and pieces that really have an impact. And I think I said it before, like to me, it's all about the impact. It's all about what it, even at work, like I tell my team, I manage a team of nurses that are like the expert level nurses that really do all the heavy lifting for, I don't even know how to explain it, to be honest, because it's hard to explain to those that aren't in the industry, but Goal is always impact. It's how are you impacting your building today? How are you impacting your patients? How are you impacting your leadership in your buildings? And how are you, creating something that has meaning? And it's interesting because like I often, and I'm tooting my own horn here mostly because I often am told by my team, like, we really enjoy working with you. We enjoy the process. And the only thing that I do different is ask them daily, what are you doing today that has an impact? And if you're not doing something that has an impact, then don't do it. So I don't need to know, how many times you improved this or what number got better on this or how many responses happened to this. It's what's your impact? What are you doing that has a impact on the balance or the process of what's happening in your building? It's the same way for me for, my spiritual life. It's where's my impact, whether it's myself or somebody else, it doesn't matter. But I just think that's really important thing to pay attention to is where are you spending your energy?
There's a core concept within like kind of when you get into weightlifting, bodybuilding, that kind of stuff of like progressive overload is what they call it, which is essentially this idea that like you're just trying to add 5 pounds or a couple reps the next week, and basically you're just trying to do a little bit more than you did the last time. You recover from it, you come back, you do a little bit more, but it's really interesting over time to see because like obviously like people always think of that as like what your max is going to be, what like the most you could do is, but for me I think the thing that surprises me the most is what my bottom is on my worst day. Like, can I come in the gym, feel like utter fucking garbage, sleep like shit, worst conditions possible? What is the lowest that I could possibly conceive myself being able to do? And as I progress, that gets higher and higher. Like, what's the, like, on my weakest day, what would my deadlift or my bench be or whatever? And for me, I think in other aspects of life, I find that too. Like you're saying with impact, like, for me, when I started tattooing, it was a really great feeling that every single day I got to feel like I was impacting somebody's life because I'm literally making physical changes to their body. Every single day I get to like do something that's going to permanently change the way that people view themselves for the rest of their lives. And I wrote that for a long time, but once that became like the norm for me, I was looking for new ways to branch out and be able to put more impact and effect in the world. And I feel like I'm constantly trying to figure that out. Like we put a kind of bronze little cup near the front door of my shop, and every couple months it fills up with tips and stuff like that people put in there, and we donate that money to mental health services and stuff. And then lately, I don't know if you guys have seen on social media, kind of before I got snuffed out on fucking Instagram, but I mean I was doing it on TikTok and Twitter and all that. I was going out and just cleaning up trash around the neighborhood. Going to different neighborhoods in my area, maybe driving 15 minutes and seeing if I could do 2 large trash bags, and just filling them up and then throwing them in a dumpster and that kind of stuff. And then, seeing different communities and stuff that I could help out with, like whatever I can do to kind of amplify that and get that progressive overload going and what my positive impact on the world can be. Because again, I feel like tattooing, I'm doing that, but that's become normal to me. That's an everyday thing. It no longer like weighs my spirit. On my worst day, I'm still going to go into work and do a good tattoo. But how can I push myself to do more?
So to sum that up just in a general for me, and I've actually been kind of keeping track of these things in our past couple of interviews and stuff. So if I repeated that or if I quoted you on that, what I kind of would say is if you ask yourself, what is your best on your worst day?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's a really good barometer of capability. I think of if you know what is the best you can do on your worst day, then I mean that gives you a limit, that gives you a bottom to say that's if I can make that at least better than the worst, and I'm always going to be up. Yeah, always going to be up.
It's easy to keep trying to improve you on your best day, but to be like, this is my new bottom and I'm not going to go below it. I think that's something that more people should concentrate on. You know,
I like that. That's awesome.
And the awkward silence.
That wasn't awkward silence. It was like 3 seconds.
Letting it sink in.
That's enough to be an awkward silence.
So if I'm looking at myself, what is the best I can do on my worst day? Like, that's a lot to think about because, you know, every day, like my job really does revolve around people living or dying. Like that's part of our process. Like that, it's if we miss something, somebody could die from it. Yeah. So if I set my bar at my best and my worst day as being I don't cause harm, I mean that does kind of recategorize things a little bit. That's a really good way to look at it. I'm using that on my next meeting Friday. Like that's an impact, man. That's how you do it. And that's the whole point of all of this, right? That's a conversation that I have that has nothing to do with work, which would probably get me fired, actually, because most people at my work are really Christian. But that's neither here nor there. But to take that information from a Saturday night podcast and have an opportunity to grow a team of people that I work with, that's pretty fucking amazing to me. I mean, that's how it's supposed to work.
And it's interesting to me too, man, because that's part of the reason why I own my own business. You know, it's like nobody could fire me for this kind of stuff. You know, much as people wish they could. You know, it's like I definitely don't envy you in that sort of capacity. But you know, I remember actually, I had a buddy that he served in the U.S. military. He was an infantryman, and then he actually was took a break from the military and was going to med school, and he was hoping to go back into the military as a combat medic. And once he finished up with med school, which I thought was awesome, and there was a party going on, one out in Brooklyn at a friend of mine's place, and there was a couple guys who were in like outlaw motorcycle clubs and shit there, and some other like kind of societal outlaw type of characters at that party. And my friend actually took a photo with me and then a couple of other dudes who were in bike clubs and shit like that. And somebody posted it online and tagged him in it on like Facebook or something. And he freaked out when he saw that he was tagged, and he was like, dude, can you take that down? Can you take the tag out for me? Like, people at my job are going to see that. I don't want that to happen, because he was working at a hospital. And it was literally only up for about 10 minutes. We're talking like a few minutes after the ball dropped on like New Year's, you know? And sure enough, he went into work and somebody had screenshotted it. They printed it out and made him go before like a bunch of people at the hospital and made him beg for his job, because they said, this isn't the message that we want to put out. You're posing with these guys with, you know, known criminal organizations patched on their like jackets and stuff like that. They clicked on my page and they were like, this satanic scuzz bucket, you know, like kind of thing. And dude, I was like,
that's so fucked up to me, man. Yep. That's so the way that I've always operated, like maybe I've got like a crazy luxury or something, like I don't know, because I mean, the last job I had before I started working from home was actually a Catholic high school, as a teacher in a Catholic high school. And so I got fired because when Halloween rolled around, I showed all the students Hellraiser, like the first Hellraiser movie for Halloween.
That's awesome, dude. That's a great pick.
Right? Hold on a second. Boy! Is my ex-brother-in-law is outside for my kid. So hold that thought. You guys keep talking. Let me get my kid outside because it's his grandfather's birthday. And yeah. Dude, that tarot deck, I want that fucking tarot deck. The Gothic Tarot by Joseph Vargo. Dude, Joseph Vargo is a fucking legit fucking artist. I love him. I will be right back. You guys keep going.
I had the whole compendium. Okay, whatever. Bye.
I got the Oracle of Leviathan right next to me. This is the Lover's card from that one.
Dude, I have that one somewhere behind me. I don't know where it's at, but it's behind me. And the Lover's card comes up, and I think it's really awesome because what drew me to draw was Scarlett's comment about us being in sync. And when I do a weekly tarot, I did one earlier today, and it literally was all about being in sync. Like that's the whole thing.
That's a heavy Gemini card right there. The lovers.
It's most certainly. You know, all the things that we talk about, all the content, all the everything. When you boil it all down to the bottom, and you take out religion, you take out spirituality, you take out left-hand path, you take out right-hand path, you take out everything else, we're all on the fucking same level of trying to figure out what the fuck all this shit means, right? And trying to process all this stuff. And when you get people together that are really working through the process, you know, it never ceases to amaze me in my life to be able to learn from people that are so outside of what I'm used to learning from. And I really wish other people could experience it, and it's sad that they don't. And that's just, I don't know how else to say it than that. And that's a little egotistical. I get it. It's a little, you know, selfish, but I feel bad that some people are so like involved in whatever it is they're involved in that they can't see the beauty in all these different processes and things that are happening around them, that they can't just see what's happening, because none of us are getting out of this alive, right? And none of us are going to make the next step alone. Like that's just how it is. There's no changing that. And you know, it's something to be said for.
Look, I don't know about you, but I'm getting out alive. Fuck you. I'm getting out alive. Like,
I am not
I've been
getting
listening
out
the
alive.
whole fucking time, right?
So,
Bringing my kid downstairs. I'm listening to you. I'm getting
I'm
out
not
alive.
getting-
Fuck the
we're
rest
not-
of you people.
No, you're not. Okay. First of all, let's open the library. Let's read. You ain't getting out alive, and neither are any other individuals on this call. But what we will do is we will get out with an impact, and we will get out with immortality, right? So immortality splits into two directions: immortality of whatever your next life is, and immortality of whatever it is, Malice, that you leave to Ian, and what he does in his next relationship, and what he does with his life.
You mean my legacy? Right?
That's-
I don't consider
no.
that's not immortality. Like that's
No,
legacy.
it's-
Legacy is a form of
No.
immortality.
Legacy
but
is passive.
immortality is
No.
I mean, okay, for me,
Nope. Legacy is passive. Legacy is what you leave, the LE. Legacy you leave behind. It's the result of. Immortality is what you have impacted. Immortality is what your impact is, and how that person brings that to the next level.
Maybe. I think that legacy is a form of immortality.
So right.
Okay, I think that like the legacy. I think legacy honestly is the only form of immortality, right?
Legacy represents and respects what you're leaving behind. I mean, that's what it means, right?
There's
My legacy is.
There's a theory and aspect to like
No,
Norse
sir.
mythology of actually that they believe that a lot of the gods within Norse mythology might have actually been living people at one point,
Yes,
and that's why most of their names
we
translate
walk with our gods.
Yes.
like Odin being like the furious, ecstatic one, and then like, you know, Thor being the thundering one. That basically like these were people that embodied states of being so much, and then they become like forgotten by name, but only by their actions. So basically, the myth lives on just because they were so embodied by that thing that they did that other details about them are just lost to time.
Well, that's
But-
why I always say that like all the deities and gods and things like that we worship now, entities, gods, deities, whatever you wish to call them, are new names and new faces for old gods. Like these things these powers have existed long before we even fucking roam this fucking earth. And the sooner that we're able to understand that, the sooner that we're able to understand that these things have been here so much longer than we have been, the sooner that like we'll be able to actually truly connect to like the profound nature that is the knowledge that they wish to provide us with. But like trying to treat them as like kind of like these neo-pagan ideas, it's just shitting on your own progress, because that's not what they are.
Not necessarily. If you look at it in the perspective of everybody is on the path that they're on for the moment that they're capable of being, then that's where they have to be at this point on that path, because that's where they are in this. That's where they are at in this life. I have got to stop drinking.
The people are the gods.
But
the people are the gods.
The people, not the gods. The people. The people are on the, like me and you and BikerWitch and everybody else in the chat. All of us are on different points of whatever our path is, and they can all be the same point, but just in a different paradigm, whatever you want to call it, right? And so and this is again my opinion. Who knows if it's right or not? Who cares? But as we go through the process and as we learn more about what our path is and what we're doing, and as we walk along, whatever it is we walk along, to me, in my spiritual path, the end result for all of us, including evangelical Christians and every other craziness that is my personal opinion, but every path we're on, it's all the same. It's the same path. It's just whatever part of the path that we need to be able to represent upon in order to get to our next level. So no matter whether we are, elevated, or we're, closer to God, or we have been through the process, we're all trying to do the same thing. That's all it is to it. And maybe I understand more than the next person at some point, but that means that the person on the other side of me understands even more, and they're even further along on that path. And whether that's true or not doesn't matter, but what matters is that I recognize and allow that space to exist, that all of these infinite number of paths beside me are appropriate, and they are acceptable, and they are positive, and they are desirable for those individuals. My path is desirable for me and where I'm going, and that's all that matters, because that's what gets me closer to God, goddess, whatever the case may be. And that's what allows me to go to the next step and treat a patient who calls me every single day that I walk into a building a faggot. That's how I can treat that patient.
Why did you have to drop the F-bomb? Why? The F-bomb.
That's how I can treat that patient, right? That's the only way.
We just lost all monetization, chat. That's it. Doesn't fucking matter anymore.
Isn't there a thing where they only monitor it up to like a half hour?
I think it's like something like 5-10 minutes or something.
It's 5 minutes.
But
regardless, even with that, they will take it away, but they'll add it back. But regardless, we're not monetized anyway on that front. The point is, path is path, process is process, goal is goal. Whatever we're doing, we're doing. We just have to be fucking nice to each other while we're doing it.
I don't know. I don't know about nice. I mean, all right. So here.
Yeah.
All right. So
nice is not a bad thing. That's not part of the shadow.
Well, look. Here's my thing. Right. So I'm gonna work on. This is how I view it. My perspective. This is just my perspective and just my opinion. It does not. It's.
Do you want to make it really quick, or do you want to give me a second to go to the bathroom?
You go to the bathroom. I'm just going to explain the logistics. So my opinions here do not express the opinions of everybody that's in the conversation. It does not express the opinion of Mystic. It does not express the opinion of BikerWitch. It's just simply my opinion. But the way that I look at things is, I am not designed to be nice to everybody. It's just not a thing. I do not exist to make you feel better about yourself. Now, if I care about you and you're a friend, I'll do what is within my ability to make you feel better about yourself. But at the end of the day, if I don't know who you are, if you're just a viewer, if you're just a random person, it is not my responsibility to make you feel accepted. It is not my responsibility to make you feel good about yourself. Those are responsibilities that fall on you. It is your responsibility to feel good about yourself. It's your responsibility to feel good with the things that you're doing in your life. And if you don't, then you need to reevaluate what it is that you're doing. Do not come to me for validation about who you are, because I am not going to come to you for validation about me. I am validated only and solely through myself. Okay, it is that simple. I do not look to you for validation. I do not need your validation. If you choose not to validate me, it is no skin off my teeth. And that's not to be rude. It's not to be mean. It's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't want to help you if you need help. But understand that I'm not going to be an emotional punching bag because you can't deal with your shit. It's that simple. I need to be able to care about me, my kid, and my family, and the people that I love and care about. And outside of that spectrum of the people that I love and care about, you do not enter. Unless, of course, you've proven yourself to enter into that category. And you need, make no mistake, you need to prove yourself.
I completely agree with you, 100%. But almost on the inverse. Because when I'm out and about in life, you know, like, I try and be as pleasant, as typically agreeable as a default, and respect, not, maybe that's not the proper word, but I try and be as polite and kind of helpful to people as I move throughout the world who I don't know very well, as a general rule, all the time. Because that makes my life easier. I feel like that puts the right kind of message out there in the world, the right kind of thing. I try and do right by people constantly, that kind of stuff. But if somebody is a close friend of mine, especially as like a masculine on masculine kind of thing, I might be downright nasty to you because it's a hard love kind of thing. And for me, iron sharpens iron. You know, like, so somebody who's going to be considered my brother, who I truly respect and I want to see do well, you know what? I'm going to fucking give it to him sometimes, you know? I'll be like, dude, you know what? You got fucking fat. You're not hitting the fucking gym. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You say stupid shit all the time. Like, you need to learn to shut the fuck up, dude. Like, you know, that kind of thing. Like, my brother, that's somebody I'm going to say that to. Somebody out on the street, it's like, no, please and thank you. You know, all that kind of stuff, because I don't know you like that, you know? But if I know you like that, then all bets are off, man, you know? Like, and that's not the way I talk to my girlfriend. That's not the way I talk to, you know, my little cousin, you know, that, but my friend. That's the way
Mystic.
I love that. Like, I give you options. I say, look, do you want the truth or not? Just tell me which one you want.
And I don't hold back. Fuck off. You lying son of a bitch. You do not give me options.
I did. No, okay. I did give you options, but you didn't take the option. So then I decided to deliver.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. With Mystic, one of the reasons why I consider Mystic a best friend is what I look for in a person that is my best friend. I do not look for you to be agreeable with me. I do not look for you to
definitely not
agree with me. I don't. I don't want, like, if I'm going to consider you a very good friend, like somebody that I can trust, like 100% unequivocally, in my mind, I do not want you to agree with what it is that I'm saying. I'm not looking for somebody to echo chamber my ideas. I'm looking for somebody to challenge my shit. I want somebody to challenge my shit. Yes. Like, I want somebody to challenge my shit.
We have a lot in common. Like, not in our personal lives in common, but a lot of our thought processes. It's funny because we disagree on like 99% of everything we talk about.
And by being adversarial,
but our method is the same. Our method of process is the same. Like, our way we get to that is the same, and how we treat people is the same.
By being adversarial to one another, though, you guys kind of help one another to grow to that next level. You're constantly bouncing off each other, making each other stronger, which then the two of you united are stronger against the rest of the world. You know,
I'll be honest. I think my thought process has changed since Malice and I have talked together. If you would have asked me a year ago, some of the things that I would admit, and I'm not going to say them because that would give too much information, but some of the things that I would have decided to end or ended a relationship or friendship on, we wouldn't be talking right now. And that's changed because of our conversation.
Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things that, like, I want somebody, like, so for example, I'll give a simple example because it's my space to give an example for this. I've been having relationship issues, right? There's somebody that I care for greatly that I just like is very important to me. And for one reason or another, it's just not working out. And I'm generally the type of person, like how I am,
temporarily,
is like how I am as a person generally speaking, if we're in a relationship and it doesn't work out, I fucking burn you. Like, I burn the bridge. I don't give a shit. I'm done. I move on. And for some reason, this particular situation, I just can't. And I've expressed a lot of that situation to Mystic. And Mystic has been very upfront and very honest with me, with opinions that are not agreeable to the situation, we'll say. To say that it's not what I want to hear, but it's what I need to hear.
Yep.
And the thing is that's what I expect from a friend. Like, my expectation of you as a friend, like, and this goes for you, fucking Biker. Like, you know, us as friends, this goes for you. Like, if I ever come to you for advice, my expectation is not to tell me what the fuck it is I want to hear, but tell me what's really fucking going on, right? Like, what your actual perspective on shit is. Because I know how I am. I can get really flighty and I can get really into shit and not see what is actually happening around me. And what I expect from my friends is to tell me, dude, you know what, dude, you're fucking up, man. You're doing some stupid shit and you need to fucking stop. Because...
And I would feel comfortable telling you that because of the context of our relationship thus far, and I respect you, so therefore I would give you that perspective. You know, it's funny, one of the ways that I see this all the time, people will come to me with their drawings or something and be like, check out my drawing, what do you think? And I'll be like, are you trying to do this professionally? Do you want, like, that side of me? Or do you want me to just tell you as, like, to be agreeable and, like, you know? Because I'll be like, yeah, it's awesome. It's like, but if you're trying to do this professionally, you want, like, an actual, like, art school critique like I went through, it's like, you know, your perspective's trash. You have no understanding of where fucking light sources are. Like, you know, like, which one do you fucking want, you know? But it's tough, you know, and you got to kind of have that conversation with people sometimes. Be like, hey, where are you coming from with this? Like, are you doing this as a hobby to make yourself feel good? Because that's awesome to me, you know? Or is this something you're actually trying to, like, pursue and you want, like, the cold, hard truth? Because the world out there isn't going to kick it to you soft, you know? That's the best part. Yep. You know, I do this in jiu-jitsu all the time. You know, I got, like, guys I roll with all the time. And it's cool because, like, we're friends. But when we go in that classroom, we're trying to choke the fucking living shit out of each other. And then the next day, you're trying to choke each other again. And then you try to choke each other again. And then when we go to that jiu-jitsu competition, we're so used to trying to choke the fuck out of each other that when somebody, like, half steps and brings this, like, sloppy ass choke, you're like, that's a fucking joke. My fucking buddy gives it to me way worse than that, dude. You think I'm gonna fucking like add all to that?
Exactly. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like, I think because of the way that I'll be honest, like, my stepdad, right, not my biological father. My biological father bounced when I was fucking 6. Fuck him. I lived with him for 9 months at 16. It's like 16 to 16 and a half. Okay, he's still a piece of shit, so fuck him. But, like, my stepfather, like, he was that type of person. There's, like, I don't give a fuck how you feel emotionally. I'm going to tell you how the fuck it is. And whether or not you choose to accept it, that's on you. And I look for that in people, man. I look for that shit. Like, that's what I want from people. Mystic, whether you believe it or not, that's what you give to me. Like, when you and I talk about some deep emotional shit, like, the way you present it, man, it's like I know that, like, you're a Virgo and you're unicorn vomit shit, but, like, when you present that shit to me, man, you're just like, dude, this is how it is, man. Like, whether you fucking like it or not, this is how it is. And I love that about you, man. I fucking love that about you. Like, I mean, I know in the moment I might get depressed, I might get upset, but overall, I promise you, I fucking love it.
It's so funny because I spend most of my life with people telling me how much I sugarcoat stuff. I'm like the soft landing kind of guy, and I am because I'm a fucking nurse. Like, I've got to stick a needle in your arm, and I may be the last person you see before I harvest your lymph nodes when you're dying and you're never going to wake up again. Part of my life, and that's how it goes. Like, I remember, like, just dealing with some of these things and how I manage them in my personal life. And it's not sad. It's not like this is the end of life and this is what it is. It's like, this is just a part of what is just the most incredibly large scale thing that's ever going to exist. And all I care about is working with a team of people that recognize impact and can do something to improve their impact on the lives of others. I don't care about any fucking thing else. And so I fly every week, right? If I fly out on Tuesday next week because Monday's a holiday, I might be in Atlanta, I might be in Newark, and I might be in anywhere else in the country. Who knows? And when that flight or that plane crashes, what are people going to say? Like, what's going to be left behind? And whatever's left behind, I'm not trying to be what's the word? I'm not trying to be like self-deprecating or whatever, but whatever's left behind is not going to matter in 2 weeks. Everybody's going to forget. But what I want people to remember isn't my name. It's not what I did. It's not what I meant. It's maybe they changed how they did something, or maybe they changed how they're processing, or maybe they're differently interacting with their family member, or maybe they're taking a little bit slower approach to the family member that doesn't respond to them well. You know, I have had people call me names as a nurse, like the most, I'll try not to say it again, but you know what the words I'm talking about. I've had patients call me that and scream it to my face, and I will still go in and treat you with dignity. And that is not easy. That is trauma. That's trauma. But the point is, none of it matters in the end. None of it matters like independently in and of itself. But what matters is the ongoing, long acting process of what it is your impact is and how you treat other people. So I'm not going to differentiate myself for the purpose of differentiation. I'm not going to separate myself because I want to be seen as different from you. But what I am going to do is I'm going to make my impact. I'm going to let you know that it's my impact, and what you do with it's your problem. And that is what has kind of changed my spirituality and my spiritual process of how I interact. It's probably why I'm not considered your like a Wiccan or a pagan, general paganist, and it does push me off of that group of people, because it's not love and light. It's not let's do the best thing and the greatest thing. It's just fucking be yourself and do the best human thing you can do, and we're all going to fuck it up and screw it up, and we're all going to die. But that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Oh, dude, I completely agree. And like, I mean, I think a lot of my own personal path and kind of what I would like to leave behind on some level is to be an example of somebody who did it all on my own terms and really didn't care about what other people thought, because I'm more concerned with the group of people that are willing to come with me on the current and resonate with that which I'm putting out there, which isn't for everybody. You know, like, I'm not trying to be agreeable. And as we were talking about earlier with is, you know, you put a certain type of message out there that seems aggressive to people and stuff. There's a small percentage that are going to really resonate with that, and that's what they need to hear. And those are the people that I'm out there for. And honestly, that's part of the reason why I think I ended up getting kicked off of certain social media platforms and that kind of stuff, because, you know, I'm kicking that kind of like harsh medicine kind of stuff. I also refuse to apologize for people I associate with, you know, apologize for certain aesthetics and ideas that I've like entertained, because, you know, here I am, I'm trying to live my own fucking truth, embrace my own fucking path. And there's lots of people out there that when I die will say I was a fucking terrible person because of things that are very on the surface that I embraced consciously myself. Yeah. You know, I have tattoos on my own body that people look and they're just like, that's sketchy. And I'm like, because I put it there, because I want you to fucking judge me based on superficial shit. You know, that's been my entire life. People have like judged me based on superficial nonsense and not by the character of my actions or my heart, you know? And it's funny because that makes you a fucking social pariah. I've seen it over and over and over again. You know, that just because you don't toe the party line and say the sacred mantras and paint the red line over your door so, you know, your fucking children don't get killed in the night by the fucking plague, you're out to fucking dry, you know? There's people out there that are willing to fucking sacrifice a good person for the right cause. And that's fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
The fact that they could know deep down that you're a good person, but you don't fit the aesthetics of what they think is a good person. And, you know, that's part of the reason why I'm happy to have this tattoo studio and that kind of stuff, because it gives me an outlet to where I can not only support myself, but continue to do work out there to keep putting out that positive message that, hey, not only can you live life the way that you want, be the person that you want, fucking be a weirdo, fucking be into all kinds of odd shit, entertain forbidden ideas, have fucking books that nobody wants you to fucking read, but you can like win at this shit in life. You can beat the fucking odds. You can do all this other stuff, and you can really affect positive change in a small group of people. But you know what? You might have to be hated by the larger group of people, which I'm totally fine with.
100%. It reminds me of something like, you know, there's conversation right now of I can't think of a better phrase, but punching up, right? You punch up to the next level, or you punch down to the lower levels.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where you punch up to, we're all like in the literal exact same space. And so many people don't recognize, I think, that we function from the same space of whatever your traumas or your things that you're doing well with and that you recognize it is the same things that are causing the other individual to not be able to integrate or action at that level, right? And so as a group, the three of us, we have had such completely different experiences in our lives. Where else are you going to find the gay guy with the pink cotton candy in the background, the BikerWitch, and the goth dude with the unholy hat? Where we've all had the same experience. Mine might be with being and coming out in my process. Malice's might be with identifying with the goth culture or whatever it is, and yours might be with whatever processes or whatever have happened in your life. And the fact that people don't realize that we are literally all from the same freaking source of whatever cesspool of humanity it was, right? It's always frustrating for me. And I have not.
Cesspool is an accurate description.
Yes, it is. I mean, and it is literally everything that's left, right? The trees are made, the ground is made, the air, the earth.
Well, it's what's left
clouds,
in us.
But it's what's left in the universe, right? All the beauty is around us. And then
I don't think
humans.
it's what's left in the universe. I don't think it's what's left in the universe. The universe has beauty for all. See, I think that the universe has beauty on all sides for different people. I think it's what's left for us. So, like, I think for our time period, like the three of us, not just myself, not just Mystic, not just BikerWitch, like all the three of us and more, is there's one thing that the three of us have in common. And at the same time, something that we have that's a very deep differential, essentially.
I am not a bottom.
Do not tell me that you do not like when your girlfriend's on the top and you get to see and touch everything. Don't lie. Don't lie. Don't lie, Biker. Don't lie. You're lying. You're lying. Anyway, I'm being an ass because I'm drunk. But
that's who you are.
Right, exactly. But I think the thing is like what the universe has for us, like our understanding of things. We have a very similar understanding of the world around us and how that it functions. And much as I fucking hate to say this, we are reaching the point of being the old guard. We were the old guard. Like, people are going to come to us for advice and completely disagree with the points of opinion that we have, because the points of opinion that we have, when I was in college, what we fought for was, marriage equality, right? Like that's what we fought for. That was the big thing back when I was in college. The parades and the protests that we organized together was for marriage equality in the LGBTQ, right? And now it's on another level. It's on a level that, sadly, I'll be open and honest, I can't understand. I respect it. I respect the struggle. I respect the fight because I was there as an ally with the marriage equality thing. But it comes to a point. It comes to a head where I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't understand why you're doing it. I'm there for you if you feel that you need to do it, but I don't understand it. And that's the first signal that, my age is kicking in. That I can't understand what the youth is fighting for.
Personally, I think in all cases, though, I mean, it's for me, back then even, and now, and all throughout history, I always come back to that. I think I don't disagree with the end goal, but the method to get there. And that's the same thing. Like, I don't have to understand the plight of every single person, whether that be a young person's game or somebody who comes from a different background than me or something like that. But there seems to always be this willingness to go along with some form of well-meaning authoritarianism to make X happen. So, like, it's like, no, I only support holding people at gunpoint and forced in prison and ostracization and ruining lives if it's for a greater cause that I believe in. If it's based on my subjective morality, which, I don't really know if the issues that we were talking about that maybe 10, 15 years ago that we were fighting for got solved in the fashion that I would have preferred. The end goal, sure, we achieved it, but, did we do it through freedom? No, we did it through more laws, more telling other people how to live their lives, all that kind of stuff. And the funny thing is the people who push for this stuff think that they're the morally just and good ones. But it's like, at the end of the day, they think that you have to force people to do the right thing. They can't come to those conclusions on their own. I think either people need to come to those conclusions on their own, or we deserve whatever bad shit we get as a human species in the end anyway. We didn't fucking deserve it. If the only way that we could be good people is by force, then we don't fucking deserve it. I mean, that's the whole point of, the Clockwork Orange movie. Is Alex a better person because he had his eyes held open and made to watch and he was made to feel sick when something bad happened? I think Alex was better off when he had freedom and he was able to be the piece of garbage that he fucking was in the beginning of the movie. And I think that education is the right move. Maybe showing him those things was the right move, but giving him the chemical fucking sensation of negativity associated with those things, you could just basically try and take the education route and allow people to come to the conclusions themselves to realize that this is a better way of running society than always going with the well-meaning authoritarian. It's just saying oh, well, the whole thing is these nasty genocidal maniacs in history, they liked all kinds of bad things that I don't agree with, but I will support essentially the next dictator if they align with things that I believe are the right way to be. And that's just really hypocritical and really strange to me that people always seem to be really willing to go along with the well-meaning authoritarian. So, regardless of whether or not, my point is, I understand what the young people of today are fighting for. Imagine if basically, they didn't have to fucking ask permission.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I agree. Are there some things that I feel that, as much as I hate to say this, so when I was a kid, when I was in high school, when I was in university, I heavily identified as leftist, right? I heavily identified as leftist. At this particular junction, I feel that the most appropriate label, politically speaking, and I hate talking about politics, but politically speaking, the most appropriate label for me is classic liberal. I'm fiscally conservative, but socially progressive, right? If there's a social movement that people feel that is necessary to kind of move forward on, I don't just jump on it, but I'll analyze it, I'll look at it, and then I become in agreement with it if I feel that it is something that's there's certain progressive movements that I disagree with. And we can have that conversation later, but I'm not going to do that here.
I don't think it matters
for reasons. Right?
I don't think it matters whether or not you disagree with it. If we just repealed the laws essentially that make it illegal, quote unquote, you can disagree with it all you want, but people are free to do what they want.
Yeah.
Why was nobody?
Well, okay. So I'll put it this way: the thing that I disagree with, the thing that I disagree with, right? The biggest thing that I disagree with, and Mystic and I have talked about this, and generally speaking, I think Mystic is in agreement with me. Generally speaking, he's confused. The 8-year-olds, Mystic, the 8-year-olds. So I do not emotionally and morally agree with the idea of an 8-year-old being involved, for example, being a drag queen. I have friends that are drag queens, and I think that they are strong, powerful people that are expressing who they are. But for an 8-year-old to be in front of an audience of 25 to 35-year-old men doing specific style of dancing and things like that, maybe it's just my background, maybe it's what I've been through in my life, but I find that highly inappropriate.
Oh, 100%, dude. It's pretty good.
So, and the sad thing is, those are people in today's society that think that is an acceptable behavior. And I've seen it, like, it's on the fucking news, like it was something to be proud of. Like, there's this 8-year-old kid fucking doing his drag set and an audience full of fucking 25, 35-year-old men, and I just felt fucking disgusted, not because of the drag queen part of it, but because of the fact that there's 25 and 35-year-old men cheering on a fucking 8-year-old.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the perception or the process or the necessity of the individual that initiated that behavior. The problem is not the kid expressing it. The problem is the reception.
Well, here's the question. Like, who initiated the behavior? Was it the kid or the parents?
It's the audience. That's it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because when you strip all of those other things around, and I'm going to point this out. Like, I'm just
go for
it,
dude. Like, it's the Malice experience.
Yeah, right. Like, oh no, this is welcome to the salon experience. This bitch about to get salty. From the aspect of the three of us, right? None of us are qualified to experience or express what the experience is of another person. Doesn't matter where we come from, what we do, what we have, where we are. The problem is how do I express this in the way that I want to express it? There is no way for me still in 2022 as a gay person to express in naturality my feelings in an atmosphere that is accepting of things as they are. I don't know how else to say that. So whether it is a desire for gender fluidity or sexuality or whatever the case is, we can all say as much as we want it's not appropriate for a child to decide or to make an exception or do whatever it is. My life would have been exponentially more successful and more authentic if I would have been allowed to live it the way that I felt it at the age of 5, 6, 4, 7. At those ages, I knew who I identified as. And my inability to express that has caused my downstream traumas or downstream reactions to the life that I live now. The problem is, because of that duct-taped reaction of, oh my God, a child can't know what they are. Hold back everything. Because of that reaction, the natural reaction or the natural expression of that is not capable. It's not probable. It's not possible. So the reaction becomes one of an exaggeratory perspective. So it's like the trauma is amplified because the trauma can't be expressed as a normal expression of human personality. Like it's an egotistical child is going to have a reaction from the environment that he or she is in. And that's going to develop that way. And that child is then going to have to decide whether or not to continue on that egotistical process of I am the most important thing that's ever existed, or I might be a humble person who has more to offer to the world, right? That's the natural progression. But somebody who doesn't have that capability can only react to what is presented to them.
Right. So first I want to say this. Your experience and what you've been through is more valid than my opinion based on the fact that what you... Hold on a second.
It's not.
Would you wait a fucking second?
No, because you're wrong. We've already had this discussion. My perspective is not more valid than your perspective. It's only different.
The reason I think the reason that I think that it is because the experiences that you've had are more closely related to the experience that modern day children are having with this particular issue that I'm talking about. That's why I say
true. I'm older than you.
My perspective comes from being a father, which is probably the worst perspective that you could probably take in this situation. Mm-hmm. But I can say that as a father,
appreciated how much I'm honest with you. You're wrong.
Okay, all right. So, as a father, the one thing that I can say, if my son comes to me tomorrow or a year or 2 years and he says, "Dad, I want to dress like a girl," or that I don't feel like I'm me. Maybe it won't be as clear as what I'm saying because it's coming from a fucking 9-year-old, right? But if he says this is the clothes, these are the type of clothes that I want to wear. My immediate reaction, no, is not to shut him down and tell him that you're a boy and you need to dress this way. That's not my immediate reaction. My immediate reaction is very similar to my reaction to when him and I got mugged together. My immediate reaction is calm down. It's okay. As long as you're in the house, you can dress any way you want. If that's how you feel comfortable. But outside, the outside world has a perspective.
One of them is an actual threat. One of them is a perceived threat based on your prejudice.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's my prejudice, but it's understanding the prejudice of the rest of the world.
It is your prejudice. Doesn't matter what you say.
I don't care how my son turns out. My son,
yes,
if my son is gay,
I
don't.
You do.
Look,
do you not want your son to have the most easiest possible presentation in order to present himself as he is to the world?
I want
him
to have
every parent would.
Well, hold on. I want him to have the easiest possible life, being comfortable, being himself. Because I'm not gay. I'm not anything like that. But as a goth that has gone through certain levels. None of the things
you have said up until this point have anything to do with being gay. But let's continue.
Okay, so the certain things that I've dealt with being alternative in my life is highly similar to other prejudices and discriminations that exist in society. And I don't want my son to go through that. But at the same time, I understand the necessity to be accepted for who you are as a person. How you feel you need to be as a person, to be accepted that way at the very, very most fundamental level by your family. And so regardless of what my son comes to me and says to me tomorrow, I'm going to love him just the same. If he's gay, if he's trans, if whatever
doesn't matter. Society has already told him that it's wrong, and he's going to feel that no matter what you say, he's going to feel that way. That's a trauma he's going to have. Next, continue.
Well, but that's where I step in. That's where I have to.
Doesn't matter.
I have to try my best to make him feel comfortable with it.
You are only dad. You are not society.
You're 100% correct. Now, I see that Biker here has an opinion. I can see the lip kind of twitching.
I'm just kind of thinking. I mean, I don't know. To the earlier point, I will say that I remember being a kid and I had a younger brother and 3 cousins that all lived with me, and we were just locked outside a lot of times. Dead of the summer, basically 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We were just locked outside. and we had a backyard that was like a pretty large backyard. We built all these BMX jumps and all this kind of crap, and we basically just lived like I describe it, like Lord of the Flies out in the fucking yard. And nobody wanted to fucking hear us. The door did not open till 8:00 p.m. Like, whatever the fuck happens out there, happens out there. I don't care if you got a fucking broken arm. Nobody's hearing for the door unlocks at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, so we did all kinds of weird shit as kids, though. You know, like fucking, I don't know, one of us might wear a dress with like shoulder pads with fucking spikes on them and carry a fucking sword around all day. Like, you know, whatever.
That's great.
My one cousin, he'd be naked with a cowboy hat on and an acoustic guitar.
Sign me up.
Like, it was just fucking bizarre. Again, like total Lord of the Flies shit. Like making our own rules as we go. Like weird ass. Lord of the Flies meets like some kind of weird warriors type shit. You know, like all wearing costumes and shit. But I think that where it gets weird is like if you took us as kids like that and just put a bunch of 35-year-old men sitting around tables and like clapping for us, that would make it weird. Like. You take any weird shit that kids do and you put an audience around them of like 35-year-old men and they're like, oh my God, so beautiful, like clapping. It makes it weird. It's like, that wasn't, it was weird to like an outside perspective, the shit we were doing as kids. But like to us, it was the most normal shit in the world. That's where the problem lies though. It's the adult audience, you know?
It's the adult dude, that is like, I can't tell you. As a 15-year-old gay kid trying to prove himself straight by having sex with women, well, they probably weren't women at that point, but you know the point. Like, that is literally what the driving factor was. It's the audience. It's what the people are expecting of you, and that's where we fuck up. I don't give a shit if you, like, don't fucking dress. Be a woman. Be a man. Take whatever. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is if you, as a parent, and I can only say this as a child, and I get off and like, well, you don't have kids. You don't know what it's like. I'm like, I was a kid for quite a while. I think I kind of do know what it's like, right? So I have a perspective here, and it really comes down to. None of this shit should matter, but it does. And ultimately, what matters is whether or not you're capable of supporting your child while expressing your opinion as a human being, but also expressing the capability of being wrong. So for me, as a 6-year-old gay kid, knowing that I was gay, and talking to my family and hearing somebody say, I do not agree or understand.
I don't mean to stop you. I don't mean to cut you off, but now I'm curious. You know, don't fucking me. So I'm curious though. Like as a father, I'm curious. Like, so you just said as a 6-year-old gay kid that knew you were gay, did you actually, in retrospect, did you actually know that you were gay at 6?
Yes, completely.
How did you know?
The only reason I could not express it because I did not have a word to determine or express what it was.
But how did you know? Looking back in retrospect, okay, like let's say it's obvious that maybe in the moment you're not going to be able to put yourself in the shoes of a 6-year-old, but in retrospect, how did you know in retrospect?
Because
like,
any mention on the fucking school bus of kissing a woman or touching a vagina made me vomit. That's how.
But how was that a thought in your head at 6 years old? Why was that a thought in your head at 6 years old?
Have you ever been on a bus at 6 years old? That's first grade, dude. Every kid on the bus had an experience.
I mean, dude, not for nothing. When I was growing up, I remember being 6, 7 years old and, like, you know, having a little crush on a couple of girls that went to school and shit.
Yeah.
You know, like butterflies in the stomach. Like, dude, given the opportunity, of course, I had no idea what the hell, like, to even do with that, you know?
Yeah.
You're confused. You're just like, I don't know. All I know is, like, I am totally cool and confident until, like, this chick comes in the room, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm nervous and I want to like leave but stay, but I don't know why I'm here, and you know, like, whereas, like, I'm sitting there with, like, the ugly girl, the other girl that I'm not attracted to at all, and then like two dudes, and I'm like calling them stupid booger heads and shit and everything else, and then like that third girl comes walking in the room, and all of a sudden I'm like, and I can't call my other buddy a stupid booger head straight,
So as a human being, the question of saying how do you know if you're gay or straight at 6 is based upon you as an adult determining what sexuality is. That is not how a 6-year-old perceives it. As a 6-year-old, I didn't perceive gay or straight. I perceived
like and not like.
That dude's kind of cute.
Okay.
That's all I knew.
And so,
but everybody else's perspective is what made me have to choose, and that's where I got fucked up.
All right. So my question though is, so as a 6-year-old. Like, so I'm not.
As a 6-year-old, it shouldn't matter. As a 6-year-old, they should, to me.
But what would have helped you as a 6-year-old, like with your family, like with something like that? Like, what do you think you might have needed?
That's hard because that's where most of my trauma came from, was between that ages of like 6 and 10. So, that's a hard question. Hold on, I'm getting there.
Well, because the thing is like you're talking to a father, right? And the thing is I don't want to shut my kid down. Like, so, like, if there's something that you know,
the only thing that my dad could have done differently than what he did was just allow me to express me as I was expressing me. That's it.
And what
if
what
I wanted to play fucking baseball, and he took me out of baseball because my fucking legs hurt, and I had shin splints really bad, and he wouldn't take me to Dr. Terry, thought I was whining. But I actually had physical problems, like a physical issue with my legs. And I missed out on playing t-ball. I'm still a gay dude playing t-ball. I don't care, like, doesn't matter. But the end all, the result of it was the only thing my family could have done differently. My entire family, well, God knows, this is like so too much into shadow work here. They could have not kicked me out at 15. They could have not told me that the guy I was dating, who was an incredibly nice, incredibly friendly, respectful person, was not allowed to come to the house. They could have done that. They could have just supported me as a human being. And you know what? If it's a phase, which I truly believe it is a phase for a lot of people, love who you fucking love. And if you grow out of it, you grow out of it. But treat people like fucking human beings. That's it. Just tell yourself, like, whatever you want to do, you do. But I'm going to be here for you. You figure it out. I'll be here. That's it.
Okay. All right.
That's simple.
You're drunk.
I mean, man, when I was growing up, it was really interesting to me thinking back on this, because I remember being 4 or 5 years old, and being raised by a single mother who made a lot of mistakes and who didn't want to take accountability for them. I think told me when I was 4 or 5 years old often that she wished I was born a woman, because all men grow up to be predators. They all grow up to be pieces of shit. They all grow up to be abandoners.
That's
that male sexuality by its very nature is predatory. Like, that's how men express, and they that's male sexuality by its very nature and essence necessitates victimhood, and it's an oppressive, victimizing act. That was stuff that I was told when I was a kid. But
it's just fucking bullshit. That shit pisses me off.
Because she made so many bad decisions in her life. So basically, her way of coping with that was not taking responsibility for it. Like, of saying, like, no, this is a problem with men, and then basically, like, I was the victim of that way of thinking about the world. That conception, that new philosophy that she came up with, I ended up on the chopping block for that. And she essentially told me that, like, hey, if I could go back in time, I would have gotten the abortion. Had I known you would have been a man, this and that. Wanting to go back because, again, basically telling me that I'm going to eventually grow up to be a monster, so I should stick by her side for as long as humanly possible. And I think all the chips were kind of stacked there to kind of have some sort of like identity crisis, an issue. And that took me a lot of time to work through, you know? So in a very different way, like I totally get where Mystic's coming from, you know, of like feeling that backlash of like, just because of the way that you are, even at that young age. I mean, obviously I was born with male parts, but being told that like that was my original sin, if I ever fucking was one, you know?
True.
I mean,
very true.
How do I lay this out?
I mean, I spent a lot of my formative years trying to prove, and you can look, like I have most of my journals and things from that time frame, like from like 1995 to 99, and it's literally all about proving that I was not gay. Like that's all I ever wanted to do, and I fucked up a lot of people. Like I had some very seriously succinct, like inappropriate relationships with women, and I treat them like crap.
But that's kind of different though, because like the thing is, you're being forced by society. You're being forced into a box that you don't want to be forced into, that you don't fit into.
You're okay. You're right. Yes, there's that force of society, but I still chose to take it, and I still have to
that's true. But the thing is when
you repercussion of it.
But when you're forced to be something you're not, of course, aggression's going to follow afterwards. Because the thing is, you're being forced to be something you're not. You're not naturally.
Who isn't forced to be something that they're not? That's not specific to the gay community. That's everybody. We're all forced to be something that we're not. We all have to deal with that at some point, to a degree, yeah. And we all have to take responsibility for that. And then, so when we take responsibility for that, that's when all this comes to light, right? I recognize I dated somebody for 4.5 years and I treated her like shit. I was a bad person. That's hard to come back to and kind of admit, saying like, this person could have met somebody that, no, she disappeared. I don't blame her. There's nothing to make that right.
Well, maybe one day she'll see this podcast and she'll understand. She might know who you're talking about.
Maybe, but I mean, in the end, the point is that we set up these, I don't know, categories or stratospheres or just levels that have to be met by a certain thing, and they're all artificial.
Well, I could say, so for example, me as a father, before I was a father, I had no illusions of being a grandfather. I had no illusions of having grandkids and, you know, sitting in a fucking rocking chair, smoking a fucking pipe, talking to my grandkids about my goddamn life. I had no illusions of that before being a father. But now as a father, my perspectives have changed. I'm not going to lie. As a father, I'm not going to lie, I do have a hope of one day having grandkids and being able to tell them the same stories I tell my son. Because there's a saying that kind of like, I don't remember who originally said it, but when you're a parent, you learn how to be a child. When you're a grandparent, you learn how to be a parent. What does that mean? I'm pretty sure that the meaning behind that is pretty self-explanatory, but when you're a parent, you learn. When you're a parent, you learn through perspective how you should have been as a kid, and the hell and the shit that you put your family through, because your kid's going to do the same thing to you inevitably. And I thought that was bullshit. And no, trust me, my kid's 7. He's going to be 8, and it's true. Like the hell he puts me through is the same hell I put my family through. And you do learn how to be a kid. If I had the opportunity to be a kid again, knowing what I know right now would have been very different. But it's part of the growing process. Being a grandparent, you learn how to be a parent. Why? Because being a grandparent, you look at your own child and you realize all the mistakes they're making with their kids that you made with your kids, including them. And you realize the correct way that you should have been being a parent in order to help them, in order to help your kids the most. And it's a situation that it's highly toxic and it's highly complicated. So on one hand, Whatever my son chooses for his life, I will love him, I will respect him, and I will always be there as his father, regardless of whether I agree or disagree or I don't like the decision. It's his decision. He's his own person. I'm not going to force his hand to be something that he's not. I will not do that. I will love him just the same, and he will have my support. But there's the other part of me where I'm like, yeah, of course I want grandkids. Of course I want to see you grow up and marry a nice woman. If that's not in the cards, it's not in the cards, but...
That is such a heavy burden to lay on a kid, though.
But I don't lay it on him. I don't talk to him about it. I'm talking to you guys about it, not him.
Who's gonna know?
Let him play fucking Fortnite, but I'm talking to you guys that got it, you know?
Okay, so without making this whole, like, about the whole gay thing, I get you, I hear you. The end result is, whatever we do in this life, we really have to be careful not to put on our meanings and what we wanted out of life onto somebody else. We shouldn't project that to somebody else. We can't require somebody else to fulfill the life that we wish we would have fulfilled. Let them be exactly who they are and do that, and just be done with it. Because it does not require having children to have an impact on other people's lives. And that's that. I mean, there's nothing you can tell me that's different, right? That's the same. And ultimately, when we loop this back around to trauma, right? We loop all this back around to traumatic processes. Like,
no, I'm not telling you to move. I'm telling you, like, we have a guest that's kind of sitting there just listening to us go back and forth with our banter.
No, then usually shut up and let me talk, because remember, I'm the one that never talks.
This is true. This is true.
So Lon, you need to talk more. I talk more, and then he tells me I'm talking too much. Fuck y'all.
Totally fine with it. I'm enjoying myself.
I've seen him yawn. I've seen him yawn like twice.
Dude, not for nothing, I have extremely high red blood cell count and iron count, so I yawn a lot throughout the day, even when I'm fucking not tired. It's because my fucking blood is made of copper pennies. But
all right.
Interestingly enough, just for the record, I had the same problem, and I'm often asked to donate plasma because I have a really high hematocrit. So that's like your plasma donations, where other people make like $10, I make like 150. I just don't feel like going. But I get that.
Yeah, no, it makes you fucking yawn, though. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. I will circle this all the way back around to trauma, right? Let's close the circle. Our topic, Malice experience, has really been focused highly on trauma. And how do we deal with trauma, and defining trauma, and how do we work through trauma? And I think it's really important that we redefine what trauma is. And I've noticed, I don't know if Scarlett is still watching, but she's mentioned a couple of times, and she said it before, so I'm going to try to summarize the mentioning or the process of trauma. And that is, no matter how big or small the trauma is, what matters is the impact it has on the individual that the trauma occurs to, or multiple small traumas adding up over time, or how we respond to and or manage trauma, right? And so when we look at that from a left-hand path, I have looked at definitions and tried to figure out what does it even mean to be left-hand path. I often say when we're in this conversation, I'm not left-hand path, and I point that out because I don't subscribe to or describe myself as left-hand path. But by definition, I actually think Rook and I both fit left-hand path as the definition. You know, we are we're pagan, we're eclectic, we are open to whatever the paths may be. And when it comes down to it, trauma is really about those things that affect you in a way that you have stuffed into the long bag, as described by some of the Jungian architects of our lives. And really the ultimate outcome is, what are we going to do with that information? What do we do next? So what is the point of conversation? Why do we even have interviews, and I hate the term interviews because I'm terrible at them. I don't like them. Everybody knows that because I've told everybody I hate interviews. But I love guests. So the point being, we had this whole conversation of what is trauma and what is our process of moving through that traumas, no matter how big they are, no matter how small they are. It's about identifying what is happening in your life as an individual and how you interact with those that are around you to make a positive impact on the things that are going to exist while you exist. And so what are we doing? Everybody in chat, everybody on the stream, what are we doing to make an active impact on improving the life that we live and, in effect, improving those that are around us? And it's not about being rainbow oriented or, unicorn vomit or trying to be just positive new agey. It's about doing the hard work that takes us through to the next step. And that's really, to me, what this is all about. This is what all of these interviews are about. This is what this whole series is about. Having Scarlett and Nate and BikerWitch on, it's to get these different perspectives so that we can then move on to describing what it is that affects us and changes who we are and how we can move forward into the next part of our lives. And I hope everybody gets a process out of that.
We to kind of harp on some of the things I was talking about earlier, we have these experiences in life, I think, that like we constantly come back to and they haunt us, like I was talking about with, growing up being told constantly that there was this kind of original sin that had been put upon me, that I was born masculine, a man, this sort of thing, and that a man was a bad thing to be. And that manifested its way throughout me growing up in all different kinds of ways. I remember being 16 years old and I was dating a girl who was like in college. And I remember me and her were texting back and forth one night, and her friends were having a party in the woods with a bonfire, and we were texting back and forth to meet up there. My mom had actually taken my phone, looked at my phone, put together that we probably had sex. And again, because I'm the man, even though she's 3 years older than me and in college, I was in the wrong. I obviously raped her. Therefore, I'm in deep fucking shit. I got older, and I feel like I took on these, like, because as a kind of trauma response, I put women on a pedestal. And I kind of put myself in a lot of bad situations with a lot of terrible women that I let get away with all kinds of shit that any self-respecting person would not tolerate. But, my mom used to literally, like, when women would come over to my house, she would be like, "Thank you so much for giving my son the time of day. I am sorry that he will one day abuse you." She would tell them this, like, the first time she met them, he would let them know. And, years later, my mom out of my life, but, I found myself, like, I would be around groups of people and there would be women there. And the fact that I wouldn't turn around and hit on them, they would assume I was gay. And I heard through the grapevine, in my early 20s sometimes, that I didn't show any sort of interest in some of the women that would come around. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, he is a F word," even though I wasn't. Just because, like, I just didn't want to approach. I didn't want any part of that, because for me, engaging in that would have made me a bad person. And I realized over time that that was something I needed to work on. So me doing things like getting into weightlifting and riding motorcycles and doing things that are traditionally masculine were ways of me claiming that back for myself. Engaging in all the positive aspects of masculinity and exploring that, because for me, that was a way to dive into my trauma, figure that shit out, and start parsing out the positive aspects of being a man. And it's interesting where the path will take you, because over time, like, through a lot of work and a lot of personal work and dismantling things that happened to me, I not only got in a great relationship, funny enough, as we were talking about earlier, we were making jokes about, he happens to be a sub. I collared her. I'm her dom now. So I have to be in that position of, like, where I hold a fucking whip and whip a woman now. How's that for fucking taking back, like, you're kind of like, and mastering that sort of trauma, and I still have things that come up. And for me, that's a way of diving into the shadow and figuring that shit out, because, like, I get to have that experience with my girlfriend now, where I get to go in and take on that masculine position of being in the dominant role, and even providing that sort of like something that to a lot of people would be violence against a woman, but it's all consensual and it's all in this situation of like self-exploration, which takes on a whole different aspect for me because of the way that I was raised. And that's where the path might take you in your healing, and I'm glad that because in society that's kind of a taboo topic. So personally, I'm really happy that I've walked this path that allows me to explore something that's taboo and take back that aspect of my masculinity and explore those positive aspects. And I think that that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here, at least from my perspective, of talking about working through traumas and turning that into a positive, because that's a place for exploration that I probably, in an avenue I wouldn't have gone down otherwise.
Makes sense. And that's a lot to fucking unpack, though. I'm sorry you went through that. Like, somebody making you feel like your masculinity is just toxic all the way through. Like, I'm a big proponent for men's mental health, and kind of like the idea that, are there toxic pieces of shit out there? Yes, there are. There are toxic pieces of shit out there that paint it negatively for everybody. But men in general are not a problem. Bad apples are. Bad actors are. Not men in general. And there is a purpose and reason for masculinity to exist in the way that it does. Even with Mystic, and I feel like I talk about this because it was the one and only time Mystic has ever snapped at me. It's the only fucking time Mystic has ever snapped at me. So we were talking about
when
Santa
did I snap
Muerte.
at you? What?
When we're talking about Santa Muerte with Rook.
Oh, I snapped, but it wasn't because of Santa Muerte. It was because of how you treated Rook about it.
I will get there.
That was protection magic, dude.
Can I just say that something I've noticed about the two of you is, like, both times I've talked with you, it's always like fucking Malice is always like, let me bring up something that really pisses off Mystic. Like, it's like every time he's like, this is a sore spot for Mystic.
It's so hard to do. Like, it's so hard to piss me off, but he's figuring it out like that quick.
Playbook right there.
Well, we're best friends.
I mean,
so the thing
trust me, I have what he has that I can get him on if I need to.
It's in you.
He's my best friend, So, but the thing was, and I understand why. So the thing was, so Rick was talking about Santa Muerte, and as anyone that knows me knows, I'm an extremely opinionated person.
Hey,
so
Martha.
if you bring me into if you bring me into a conversation, sadly, most of the time, I'm unapologetically going to tell you exactly what it is that I think without thinking about the consequences before or after me saying it. I have no fucking filter. I just don't.
True.
And so what I didn't realize is that Rook was like all excited about like working with like the Santa Muerte, and he had like the statue and shit, and like he did his research, and I'm sitting there telling him like repetitively over and over again, dude, you got to be careful, man, because like the Santa Muerte is not something to fuck with, man. It was like you ask for something, the Santa Muerte is like te va a cobrar, cabrón, like te va a pedir, like what you ask, they're gonna ask for it back, It's like and like you can see it in retrospect. I could see it in his face. He was kind of like, all right. But then the thing is like Mystic understood that face that he was making was like the face of kind of like disappointment and like kind of like, being kind of like exacerbated, kind of like, well, fuck, like I guess there's some shit that I didn't think about. And it set Mystic off. And the first time he ever snapped at me, and he's like, well, I don't give a shit what you say about Santa Muerte because I don't fucking believe in it. Like, something like he didn't swear, but like I'm doing it in a Malice kind of way. And like, I sat there, I'm like, oh shit.
Here's the key. Here's the kicking factor. There are two really critical factors to this whole thing, right? I will acquiesce to very, very many situations. And I'm okay with that. It is not a weakness. I have learned that through shadow work on my own in the past 15 years. I'm I'm only 40 years old, but I do understand where my limits are, right? And I'm okay with that. So I get it. I'm perfectly confident of where my limits are. But once you reach those limits, I have not journeyed beyond those for myself. So when you hit those limits, so do I. And we're going to join some limits together and figure out what's on the other side of when I'm pissed off. Right? So that's one piece. The second piece is no matter what those results are, Malice and I are still here talking and conversing and having conversations about things we may or may not agree or disagree with. And that is the point that I wish out of everything that we've ever done on any interview or any conversation we've ever had. The thing that I want people to understand is out of let's just make a list of 100. Let's make a list of 100 things, right? I would say Malice and I agree on about 3 of those 100 things.
It's true.
But we're not opposites. We are just on a spectrum trying to figure out how to fucking live this life. And that's all that matters. That's the point.
I want to interject something. The way I feel about Mystic, always, the way I feel about Mystic as a friend. If anyone were to fuck with him, I would fucking kill them. Like, we disagree.
I have a list, by the way.
we disagree on probably about like 90% of shit. But if anyone were to fuck, like when he told me, like this is old news, but when he told me that there was somebody gunning for him in his job because of his spiritual beliefs, like I swear to God, like if I had my way, I would have fucking lynched the bitch.
He doesn't work with us anymore, by the way.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Big win.
You know, but like that's where I was. Like the moment he told me about it, like he sent me a message like, dude, I'm fucking pissed. You know, somebody's fucking gunning for my job, saying I'm not fucking safe and like I'm a devil worshiper and shit like that. You know,
that's the mess.
Dude, I got so fucking pissed. Like it wasn't happening to me. Like I didn't have to give a shit, but I got so fucking pissed for him. I would have fucking killed her. I would have fucking killed her. You know, and that's how I feel about Mystic. Like anybody fucks with Mystic or even Rook. Like I don't know Rook that well because Rook doesn't talk that much. But you know, but anyone fucks with Mystic or fucks with Rook, dude, I'm on a fucking warpath, man. Like this is my chosen family. It's family. It's not just friendship. It's my fucking family that I've chosen to have. No, man.
So tie it back to the whole trauma process, right?
Yeah.
We often spend a lot of our time dealing with what our blood relatives mean to us, and you're supposed to be family. And what is the definition of family? And when we look at all of those pieces of what defines family, and we really peel it back, what we find is family is an arbitrary definition of something that exists by chance, right? There's no active aspect of family, right? And that to me makes it weaker. Like I don't choose who my sister is, but I choose who my family that's around me is.
There's a funny, often quoted Bible quote that people use all the time. Is blood is thicker than water.
Thicker than water. Yep.
You hear it all the time. That's not the full quote.
It's not even accurate. Yeah.
It's the blood of the womb is thicker than the water of the covenant, which essentially means that the bonds that you forge willingly in your life around certain causes or certain groups, or like the bonds that you choose to have, are stronger than the bonds of blood. It's literally the opposite of what people use it for. They try and say that like family's most important. If you read the full quote and actually understand what it means the exact opposite. It means essentially exactly what you're talking about. It's really funny that like even Christians don't even understand their own book or the messaging of it, because I think that that's a great quote, but it's so often used for the opposite.
That's a whole podcast.
Mystic.
But true.
Mystic.
Yes.
I didn't understand a goddamn thing you just said.
I thought that was just on my end.
No, that was mine too. Like, whatever the fuck it is you just said, because of your wiggle back and forth or some shit like that, it did not come through on that mic. I'm just letting you know. Mystic is highly inebriated right now.
Okay, so A, I'm not that drunk, and B, I didn't know it was that hard to understand. But, however, I
no, right now you're fine. But, like, when you're twisting back and forth and shit, it was like... like so, yeah.
God, I can't.
and my left earbud just died. We've been on for 4 fucking hours, guys.
Jeez.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think we're gonna call it right there. So this has been a great fucking show. Yeah, even like half the people just said, "Dude, I'm fucking out." This has been a great fucking show. Biker man, thanks for coming on. We'll have to get you.
It's about midnight here, and I think it's raining out, and I get to ride a motorcycle home. So.
Oh, rock on!
Oh,
rock
nice.
on! Well, be safe. Be safe.
In the fucking rain. But no, I'm excited.
So be safe. And I mean, I love the rain, but when I'm inside a house, So, but be safe. Thank you for coming on. Chat, thank you for being here. You guys are fucking amazing. Yeah, I love your faces. Like I said before, the idea of this show is to bring you guys stuff that maybe you haven't heard before, different perspectives, and to teach you guys something, right? Not from me. Like, I've never considered myself a guru. I've said it from the beginning. I've never considered myself a guru or a fucking leader. But the one thing that I'm good at is getting people on the show. And I want to take that ability to get people on this show and bring you different perspectives and different ideas so you guys can grow and you guys can learn, as well as Mystic and myself, from people that actually know what the fuck it is that they're doing. Because what I do is boring as shit, right? I do the same thing, every ritual. There's nothing to learn from it, at least in my perspective. So the point of this show is to present you guys with people that know what the fuck they're talking about, with conviction, with true red blood in their veins, and truth. That's the point. Truth is the biggest thing. So with that being said, I love your guys' faces. Thank you for being here. Hail thyself, and we'll see you next weekend. Peace out.
Deuces.
Bye.